Well, welcome to the Northwood School Board meeting, March 17. To start off, we've got bills and manifests going around. Tim's reviewing those. First order of business, this is a reorganizational meeting, so first order of business is to get a chair of the school board. So I'll take nominations for chair of the school board.
I nominate Keith McGuigan.
Keith McGuigan.
A second.
Any other nominations?
Nominate Tim Jansen.
Tim Jandabar? Any other nominations? Okay, so we've got Keith McGuigan and we've got Tim Jandabar.
Not interested, so I'll vote for Keith McGuigan.
Okay. So now we're down to one. This is going to be a tough race. So Keith, are you interested?
I'll do it.
Thank you. All in favor of Keith becoming the school board chair, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Yes, Shane did. Yep.
Abstain? Keith, the meeting's all yours.
All right. So I guess the next thing is nominations for vice chair. Anybody want to volunteer?
I'll volunteer, I guess, unless you
All right.
want it, Tim.
No, thank you.
I didn't think
All
so.
right. I'll nominate Barbie Hartford for vice chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? All right. All in favor?
Right.
Vice chair it is. Thank you, Barb. All right. Next up on our agenda is committee assignments. First off, I guess I'd like to say welcome to the new board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to see you guys here. Hopefully we'll have a good year working together. I'd like to encourage you to ask as many questions as possible because if you don't understand what's going on, it's very likely others don't either, including myself and Barb, as we've only been here for a year. I think, Tim, you've been here the longest, 4 years?
5.
5 years, so we could ask Tim. All right, committees. Guess we should just start. The committees, they usually meet, if you look in your packet, we have them. They usually require one or more members. They meet outside of school board times, independently. We organize with the committees themselves. We're going to expect that. I'd like to have every week, as part of the opening, that we report on any committee activities that have happened in the intervening weeks. So they're all voluntary. The ones that look interesting, please do, because it's probably hard to get on them. First off is the CNBA Education Committee. I've been doing that for the past year. I wouldn't mind continuing to do it, unless anybody else really wants to do it. I'm happy to do it. Bob, do we take official votes on these, or are these just going to be volunteer positions?
No, normally it's just volunteer, and if more board members want to be on them than is listed here, then you just have an open discussion. If it comes down to it, I suppose you could have a vote, but most of the time it's just a conversation.
They do need signatures, though.
Okay, so Budget Committee representative. Barb, you want to just say a few words about what that entails? Since you were doing it.
Talking about the budget at the budget committee, presenting the budget, although usually the SAU is there and does a great job. There's public hearings, so a lot of
Meets-
numbers.
Meets quarterly, except for budget season, which I think it meets a number more
More
times. So, who's up for that? Want to do it again?
I know Bree would be interested since she had run for the budget committee, so if you'd like the position.
Sure, I can do that.
Everybody okay with that? Yep. New Hampshire School Board Association Delegate. Tim, were you doing that this year? Or was that?
I don't know that anybody did it.
The new?
I thought that was the one that you went to that Saturday in January?
Oh, that was the insurance one, wasn't it?
Oh, that was the insurance, okay.
So New Hampshire School Boards, is this new as far as you know, or just have we been in?
No,
it?
it's not new.
It's not new?
I'll take it. Looks like it's something I could jump into and learn a little bit more about school board stuff.
All right. Everybody happy? Superintendent's Evaluation Group. Tim, were you on this before too? Or is this
I've
just
been
the
on
chair?
it, but usually the chair does that.
Okay, I'll take that unless anybody else wants to do it. Communication Committee.
I have to say, I was on this last time and I didn't realize what it was or anything until I read it this time here, so.
I think I may have been on that with you, and I don't think we did
Okay.
it all.
So, I
you know-
didn't realize we had to keep up the website and all of that, so.
I'd actually love to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to continue on as well? So you have
I
two
would,
people?
I
Yeah.
would love to now that I understand it a little bit more.
Do you guys know who else would be on that committee? I mean, is it just a subcommittee of us, or is there outside?
Well, it says that we chair it, so I guess we would be the ones to set it up and then ask for teachers and parents to,
To join?
Yeah, that was a committee, I think we created, it's a fairly new committee. I'm trying to remember whether we did it this past year or the year before, to get more information out to the public. So it's,
But they never met.
yeah, I know, it was really, it really can be shaped
we're
any
supposed
way
to
you
chair
want
it.
to shape it, so.
I think it'd be great to have more communication outgoing. I think
I
we've been
agree.
really lacking at that in the past
I
year
think
at
we
least.
just need to figure out what it is and how we're going to do it and, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you two are both interested.
Yeah.
Bree and Tim, you guys okay with that, with them
Hopefully
doing
you're
it?
better with the web than I am.
I can help out with that
Okay,
web
good.
stuff too, so. Emergency Management Committee, one member needed, reviews and revises emergency plan for Northwood School Facility.
Tim, were you on that one?
I'm sorry, what?
The emergency management?
Yes.
Do you want to continue on that one?
Sure, again, no meetings.
Oh, meets as needed.
All right, here come the fun ones. Teacher Negotiations Committee.
I'd
This
like
was
to do that.
Barb
Okay.
and Tim last year. And if you have anything to say about it, or just, you want to do it again?
I'd like to continue with that, yeah.
Tim?
I'm happy to do it, or if somebody else wants it, they can.
Good.
Good. All right, we'll go with that then. Support Staff Negotiations Committee. It was, that was Dave and I last year doing that, but I certainly don't mind taking a step back if you guys would be interested in such a thing.
Or it might be nice to have one,
One returning,
yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know if that works better.
we could do that. Jane, would you be interested in doing that with me?
Sure.
You all set, Bree, with that?
That's fine.
Okay. It's a few meetings. Facilities Committee, I believe that was Dave last year, was on that.
Was that Dave or you, Tim?
May have been Tim.
Facilities?
That was Dave.
Okay.
Dave last year.
It's another one, there was no meetings, I think that's a travesty. If nobody else wants to do it, I'll do it, but we should have at least quarterly meetings.
Yeah, I agree with Tim on that. There's a lot of things that are lacking facility-wise that we need to have more meetings. Tim, if you want to do that.
You guys, is it something we can have two people on? Bob, do you think?
That's up to you, you can certainly have two members.
Shane can do it, I
No.
don't mind. I
No,
don't,
Tim, that's fine. I totally agree that that needs to have more meetings on that.
it's, we went the whole thing last year and didn't have one, and, I mean, the school needs looked at periodically, quarterly.
Well, what was it that you did if it wasn't the facilities committee?
I'm sorry?
What was it that you did that if it wasn't the facilities committee where?
I was on the teacher negotiations.
Right, no, but I meant with the repairs and the lights and, I thought
That was the year before I did it.
Oh, okay,
And then
sorry.
Dave wanted to do it,
Okay, sorry.
and I know early on, there was a couple of times when it was discussed and when we having a meeting, and it just never happened. And
Okay,
It really should. I mean, it's, you need to thoroughly walk the grounds in the building quarterly and see what it needs and look at stuff like that. I can say in no uncertain terms, it came to a complete surprise that we need a new tractor. You know, I never heard that.
All right, so Shane and Tim for that one then? Does that make sense to everybody? That's great. Calendar committee. Barb, you want to talk about that?
No way you get me on that.
We met twice, I think, and came up with the calendar and, just approved it. It's just sitting down with representatives, just to come up with the yearly calendar, and I'll do that again
Can do
also.
that.
Okay.
Bob, with the contract though, do we still have 2 representatives on that committee?
Oh, it's one.
Oh, it says 2 on the list.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember
that's
what.
Yeah, I know it does. It
Put on
traditionally has been
one.
2, but we just changed the teacher contract, so it
It
may
just
have.
passed,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, it didn't get, isn't it
I'm
one?
trying to remember what we put on there.
I probably
may
have
have
it in
it,
here
actually.
somewhere.
I'm trying to remember what we did make some changes to that, but I'm trying to remember what changes we made.
To which?
The calendar
The
committee?
calendar committee.
It's one school board rep now, isn't it, Tim?
It's one school board, and
One.
so the other one now gets the, somebody from the community. That could be from the PTA, from whatever, that's.
I thought we had 2 school board, 2 teachers, and then 1 from the community. Wasn't that how we
Oh,
worded it?
instead of one from the,
Instead of administration.
that could be.
I thought it was 2 teachers, 2 from the school board,
That
and
might
1
be
from the
right.
community,
I have it right
if I
here.
remember right.
Let me see.
I have the new contract.
We argued that back and forth so long that
Yeah, I know.
I have forgotten
I
now
know, I've got the
what
old
exactly it
contract in
ended
here.
up.
Oh, what was it under? You'd think I'd have it memorized by now.
We went back and forth like 10 times on that.
We can go on and then we can decide if
Yeah, I
that's
think-
okay.
Look, Lauren's looking it up as well, so
Yeah.
Okay.
let's come back to that then. Clubs committee?
Okay, 1 board member, 1 administrator chosen by the board, 1 parent randomly selected from volunteers, and 2 teachers chosen by the association. Is that what you found?
That was the 2, 1 board, 1
Article
administrator.
V1. I can't remember the Roman numerals.
Well, what is the Roman numeral? Oh, V16.
Vi, Article Vi.
Work year, work day, it's number 4. So it is 1.
So 1 board member is the
Yep.
bottom
Yep,
line.
okay, freeze.
Oh,
That was
then
it.
Barbie wanted it.
You can,
You sure? Yeah. Okay.
3? All right.
Yeah, I'll take
Okay.
it.
Clubs committee. School administration, a couple times a year, comes up with a set of clubs, and we discussed those. It was Dave and I last year, but I'd be perfectly happy to let somebody else take over that this year.
I wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay. Technology committee. I was a representative this year. Technology committee meets monthly to go over the software and the technology needs for the school.
We elect you to do it again.
You know what, though? I have been able to go because it conflicts with my work. I have a meeting at work, so I actually haven't been in the past 4 meetings or so, and I don't see that changing,
You
unfortunately.
don't
I'd
want
like
me
to be
a
on it, but
Technology committee.
if somebody else can do it, that'd be great.
Can they consider changing the meeting date?
I could talk to them about that, I guess, yeah. That's what
I don't know anything about
There might be
technology.
some flexibility there with the date.
Well, it's just the time, it meets right after school, which is also difficult for me as well, but, getting kids off the bus, such things, but if nobody else really wants to do it, I'll put my name down, but.
Yeah, but if it's not gonna work out, come back to us and let
Okay.
us know and see if we can come up with another plan.
I can talk to them, maybe they'd be up for changing things around as well. Education committee.
Can you explain what that is?
I think that's a duplicate. I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
the
the same
same
as
as
the
the
first
one.
CBNA Education Committee, the first one. I think that's a duplicate.
We resolved that last year.
Guess not. All right, we'll cross that off.
Yep.
Athletic committee. I think I was on the athletic committee, and the only thing we did was go over the athletic policies this year. One time, I think we only met once or twice.
I'll do it.
I kind of imagined you would. Somebody else. And policy committee. Want to say a few words about that, Tim?
Policy committee, you meet with, so far it's been Mr. Runing, and go over the policies, decide whether we think we should present the board with a new policy or just recertify the old one. We did pretty good for a while last year and then kind of fell apart the last half of the year. It's too bad. We need to get our policies finished and looked at. And speaking of which, in the olden days, and I don't know why that was something I was thinking about today, when new board members came on board, we got a complete book of policies. Do we still doing that?
No, because all of our policies are online. They're on the school website and they're on the SAU website. So that's whenever we put a policy through second reading, we change it immediately on those two spots, so we have it up to date.
I would really encourage the new board members to go through that, and maybe even some of the old ones. It's amazing how many of our policies we really don't know very well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can redo it, continue to do it, or not. It's just not a big deal to me.
We also really want to be on the policy committee? All right, Tim, it's yours.
Can I ask why administration from the school, the building is not involved in those?
We are.
She is.
I go.
Okay.
He just didn't mention it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
All right. Thanks.
All right, that's all the committees, unless we want to form any new ones. Not that we-
No?
Just throwing it out there. Next up on the agenda is our policy BCA, Code of Ethics for board members. You want to read that for us?
Yeah,
or-
you've got your code of ethics. This is your policy, your code of ethics for school board members. I assume everybody has read through that, and part of your policy is basically a sign-off sheet saying that you've read it and that you're agreeing to that policy.
You want all of us to sign one page?
Yes. So if there's no questions or anything, I'll hand it around.
Do we know what the provisions are?
What do you mean?
Next year?
We could maybe figure them out, but no, not. Well, yes, I can tell you what the revision is
From last year?
from last year. We removed, there's like a, well, still on there.
Calendar and then
We
clubs,
removed
yep.
one that said that
So,
board members should
number 13, we're
Support.
taking out.
all board decisions, or something along those lines.
Okay.
You know, like externally. There may have been some other small changes, but that was the crux of it. The change from last year. We revised this last year to remove the,
Yeah, there was a discussion,
Pause.
there was a discussion at this board as well as the joint board about, there was a clause in there, or a statement in there that the board members will support all board decisions,
Right.
something to that effect. And there was a lengthy discussion about supporting board decisions, but also having the autonomy to have a private voice.
At the same time, there was a big harangue in another school, and the papers and everything got involved, and they had to back off. I can agree or not agree with you guys and go say whatever I want outside. So I was the one that really was against that part of the policy, and it got changed.
You can say what you wanted as an individual, but
That's
not as
correct.
as for the
That's
board,
correct.
yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any need for a non-public session today?
We will at the end, but not now.
Okay. Opening public comment.
Can you hear me? I can speak, okay. Welcome to the two new board members, by the way.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. I didn't catch it at the last meeting
Remind
when
me to give this to you on the-
the previous board was reviewing the minutes from February 18th meeting. And I'd like to request a correction in that it lists no public comments. And I had asked the question regarding the previous year's audit. And Marjorie had provided some details, and there was some dialogue, and none of that is mentioned in those minutes. And I think that needs to be corrected. And that being said, I'm very curious about what the status is of last year's audit.
I received the draft today before I left the office.
The draft, so can you explain what the process is from here?
So now I need to take a look at their adjusting journal entries, if there are any, make those on our financial statements, then compare my trial balance to their trial balance, and make sure that everything is, I double check everything on their financial statements.
And once that's done, what's the next step?
Then I tell them it's done and I agree, or if I can ask them any questions that I have, and then they send us the final one.
So when would you anticipate everything flowing smoothly?
I'm hoping to have them done next week, and then have Cheryl come and present them at the end of the next financial meeting.
So a month from now.
Yep.
When are they coming in to do the preliminary work for this year?
May.
Thanks.
Ginger, before you go, were you talking about the draft minutes for this meeting, for last week? Or were you talking
No,
about the
the-
ones from previous?
From the previous, the meeting of February 18th, which you approved
Yep.
last week, and I didn't catch it at that time. I was trying to remember, was it the meeting of February 18th, or was it the previous meeting? I said, no, Marjorie was here, and she was here on the 18th.
Thanks. Any further public comment? Lauren.
I just want to say, as the Northwood Teachers Association president, that we welcome you, new board members, Bree and Shane, and we really look forward to working with you and making it a collaborative effort moving forward. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on from opening public comment. First order of business is the approval of the school board minutes from March 3rd.
Motion to approve the school board minutes of March 3rd.
Any discussion? Edits?
I do.
There's an edit. Town administrator's last name is spelled incorrectly.
It is.
Thank you.
What page, what line?
It was a couple pages.
Page 8, line 40, at least.
On line 26 also.
Line 40, yeah, page 8.
Line 26 also.
Do a search, it'll bring it up, and then, yeah, it'll bring it up, and
That was it?
I think that was it.
You done?
Yes, I'm done.
Page 10, the paragraph starting on line 108, I just flat don't know what that says. I really don't. Vice Chairman Ruth said, "We did start that program because we were expecting there would be out-of-district costs." I don't know what that means. Mr. Janiver said, "No one has ever argued what you just said." Vice Chairman Ruth disagreed and in fact argued and said it was argued. I don't know what the paragraph says. I really don't.
you still have it on tape.
So I'd like to have,
Yeah, I think it's
I'd
probably
like to
the
have
beginning
that
part of it.
line, that whole paragraph relooked at and brought back to us next week. So that whatever it was being said could be said.
Yeah, there's a little more to that, and yeah, it is confusing.
And second of all, on the Target check donation, I'm sure we made a motion and it passed, but it's not reflected on page 11, starting in line 61 to 66.
Oh, it says Barbie Hartford moved, second by Tim Jandever. Line
Oh, all
165.
right. Yes, but it doesn't say it
That it passed.
passed or whatever. Yeah, we made a motion, yes, but it doesn't say that, and I'm pretty sure we passed it
pass, yes, we did.
unanimously.
Yeah.
It just doesn't say that. So I think that needs to be inserted, that it passed unanimously, or however we say it.
As
And
long
that's
as it
all I
was
had.
used for families in need, that was a
No, I
clarifier.
remember it, it just, there's a motion, but there's no resolution to the motion. Other than that, I was done, but I would appreciate if we could get that other paragraph straightened out and then relook at these next week, 2 weeks.
Do we want to approve the minutes and then have this on the agenda to revisit them next
I
week?
don't want to approve the minutes, in fact, I'm not
Or
going to vote.
just not
for it.
approve them and?
Just, yeah,
Okay.
just let them lie for 2 weeks and next, put it back on the agenda. That's the only issue, other than we need the motion passed unanimously or whatever, 5-0.
All right, so can we get a motion to table it then?
Yeah.
Motion to table.
Second?
Second.
Everybody okay with that? Yeah, okay. Just to be. While we're on minutes, anyone would like to make a motion to amend previous weeks?
Oh, Virginia, motion to approve, amend the February 18th minutes.
Now, do we have them that we can amend now, or is this something we should wait and do? I don't have them in front of me to look at, right?
That was
I don't
in
know if you
closing
do.
arguments?
Oh, I can, oh, did I don't know if I downloaded those ones, I might be able to pull them up. I think it was just under public comment. And,
All right,
Just reflected that
18th.
Ginger Joel asked about the status of the
Nobody yet.
audit.
I was told that it would be ready, it should be ready by the end of February, that you had to get a separate actuary to complete everything. There was a new Gatsby form for the state. Those were all comments that Marjorie offered.
So how about we table that too and ask her to look at her tape and see if she has that? I mean, the bottom line is, Gary has it. If we want to look up exactly what was said, and who said it, when they said it, how they said it, Gary has it.
Well, I mean, I'd rather just get it done with, just because we can put the gist of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Are
to be
you
the
happy
exact
with the
wording,
gist of it?
right?
I'll write it out.
All right.
So, Barb, did you make the motion, or did you trail off?
There was a motion and a
a
second.
motion to.
To amend them,
Amend, yeah, the
those
February
minutes?
18th.
And there was a second. So,
I think so, yeah. I think, didn't one of you second it?
are we going to do that, or
Second
is there a motion to table it?
And Ginger's going to write out what she would like to said, and then we can read that into the motion and see if we agree.
It's our public comment, I guess.
So do you want to table it for now and then come back to it?
Yep.
Okay.
In a minute, I guess. She's writing furiously.
Well, that way she doesn't have to hurry.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no rush, right?
Not to table it, to amend the February 18th.
Yeah, but if we're going to table it, we need a motion and a second to table
Oh,
it.
to table it till to come back to it? Okay, so I motion to table it till Ginger's done writing.
If we've got obviously, we've got the tape from Gary, so I think that, I would suggest that we get the tape from Gary and just have it reflect accurately. Yeah, I mean, I think that's,
In which case,
That
we'll.
way there'll be absolutely.
that way nobody's trying to tap their memory.
Are you
'cause I
listening,
can't remember
Gary?
that.
Okay, so we'll, in that case,
Well, let's table
we'll table it
both,
till
yeah.
till next meeting.
Motion to the table, yeah.
Second.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
She does. Second, yeah, aye, whatever.
Okay.
Yes, Gary.
Second, aye.
And which minutes were those, 18th?
Of February 18th.
18th.
Okay. All right, that was surprisingly difficult to get through. Business Administrator's Report. You're up, Marjorie.
Hi. So before I get going on my financial highlights that begin on page 17, in regards to the new board members, I just wanted to let you know, basically what happens is we need to pay our bills at the SAU office for your school district. And we try to have them ready for you at every meeting, so that way they are paid every 2 weeks. It helps to eliminate any late fees that we may have. So that's what you'll see in the Clear Pass package going around. We do not print checks until you sign off on it. We do need 2 out of the 5 board member signatures. Sometimes there will be an emergency check that we'll need written. And typically you'll hear us calling around or emailing you and trying to see how many board members we can get in fast to get that done. We need, the board passed a while ago that we just need 2 out of the 5. The RSA, I think, originally said it's up to the board how we can do it. I think it suggested 3. Northwood changed it to 2. We don't write any checks until you sign it. The treasurer won't sign any checks until it's approved by the board. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay. And then going into my report. So the revenues right now, which are on page 18, we still have $121,000 in excess of revenues from CAT aid and the health trust refund. Just so the new board members know. So catastrophic aid is something that we get paid in arrears for special education costs through the state. It's a calculation, so we try to budget for it this year for next year. So you received extra money for that. And then there was a whole thing going through with LGC Health Trust, and now it's just Health Trust where pretty much our premiums were being overpaid, and now they're refunding us the money. So this is the last one we're expected to get. I have not received anything else. They typically give it to us by the end of September, but we're not expected to get anything more from them at this point. But that's what that is. And then going through the expenses, right now we are underspent by $551,000. Last month I had reported $641, but most of that we've taken care of this last month since we received that is the anticipated column that we've added that we cannot either encumber at this point because we don't know who's filling those positions, or we don't know where the graduation expenses are going to be paid out of at that point. So at this point of the year, to give you guys a better line on what you're going to have left at the end of the year, we start doing it in anticipated column. So right now it looks about like you have $188,000 left in regular ed, $160 left in special ed. I'm sorry. Regular education having $188 left mostly due to salaries and insurance. Special education having $160 left mostly due to salaries, health insurance, and non-public tuition. And the special ed transportation elementary with $59,000 left. High school special education with $111,000 and high school transportation with $34,000. So at this month, there's 4 months left to the year, and I've been working with Wendy on trying to make sure they spend down all their supply lines, which she did. She gave us most of the purchase orders by last week before I printed these reports, so we tried to get those entered. We had our month.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
How do we have leftover from high school transportation? I thought that was a contract and we had actually under budgeted that
Special
last
ed.
year. Oh, special
High
ed.
school
Okay,
transportation.
okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. So we worked with Wendy on spending on the supply lines, and then at last month's meeting, Tim, you had requested a wish list item from her, so that's included in here as well. Other than that, I'm not sure if anybody else has any other questions on the financials, especially from the 2 new board members. So I'm always at the SAU, so if you ever have a question, feel free to call me, email me. I try to get back to you guys as soon as I can, so.
Do you have a count of what our funded our surplus warrant articles total to?
$121,000.
That was last year.
Oh, yeah,
The ones
you're
that just
right.
got passed.
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's less this year.
It's less because of the tuition.
It was 10,000 instead of, or 20,000 instead of whatever.
I
Before
think it was,
Before
so,
it was 56,000.
minus 56, and we did 20,
Yeah.
so 85,000.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I do want to mention, too, to the new board members, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I believe that the state has training for you, if that's something you'd like to take advantage of. It does come out of this budget. We pay for it. Sometimes they're free, sometimes you do have to pay for them, but that is available to you as well. I know they have different conferences throughout the year, so.
I've talked to Bob about that already.
Okay.
Yeah, they have negotiation ones and stuff like that too.
Yep. I think they have a budget one, and
Yeah. What's that?
so if there's no
Any
questions.
other,
I
any other
would
questions for Marjorie?
wanted to dig into the wish list, because I think that's what's next.
Yeah, if you guys want to look at the wish list, we were very specific in putting items in the wish list that are not items that would typically be in the budget. They're not this item for third grade, and this item for fourth grade, and this item for second grade, like it was last year. We really thought hard about what we need and what we want to have our children have access to, and really the first page represents our priorities, and there's two on there, one of which is the reading program, and the other is the continuation of the math program. Both of those are pretty vital to our instructional plan, and if we're going to do anything to address smarter balance scores or try to improve our instruction with a seamless math program K-8, which was a big push that we made last year, and this year, these expenses are going to need to be incurred. And we've given a breakdown. There's a couple options in the first one, depending on how much money people feel comfortable with and people feel like they want to make available for these two things. Our preference for the reading program is option one. It consists of two different things. It consists of Foundations, which is an early literacy with a focus on phonics program, primarily for grades K-2, and that would supplement the overall reading program. That would be a K-5 reading program that's Wonders. That's one of the two that we were looking at. We, just prior to the vote, had come very close to deciding which program we were going to put forth. We were beginning to prepare a school board presentation with the people that were on the reading program selection committee. Because of what we experienced with the vote on the default budget, we have moved forward this presentation to include this on a wish list. We are still intending to present to the board our preference for Wonders, why the committee chose that one, why it meets the needs best out of the two programs we looked at, what the benefits are going to be for the students, and why we want to get that into our school and start using it. The expectation here is if we do have the support for the reading program and likewise for the math program, then we would be purchasing it as soon as possible. We have representatives at the ready to be looking at which particular package we would be purchasing, depending on the amount of money we have to spend on it, and we would look to pilot or implement early stages of these programs in this current school year, in May and in June, to get people started with feeling comfortable with the program. That would give our staff members the summer to become a lot more proficient with the aspects of the program. There are a lot of aspects of this program, so that there's a lot of things that these folks are going to have to unpack in terms of what they want to use, how it's to be used, what the benefits are for students. So we think it's going to be great to actually get a jump start in this spring season and then have the summer to really get into it individually as teachers have time and want to put time into it so that they're ready and prepared before students arrive in August. Yes.
I just simply would like to know from our lawyer, not the school board lawyer, but our lawyer, is that legal?
Well, we had a lot of discussion about this, and obviously this list that we're bringing forward to you changed a little bit after the vote. We're operating on a default budget for next year. It would be nice to have had some other options for this year and then utilize the money for the reading program come next year. We don't have that option anymore. Obviously, we're on a default budget.
My
so.
understanding is no means no in SB2, and so my question is, can we spend the money this year? And I'm not asking you, I won't vote for it till I have a legal opinion.
Yeah,
and then assuming we get a legal opinion, and we can, then I would certainly like to have Mrs. Daypray bring in a teacher to and explain the value of the reading program. Okay, I understand the math, and I if you go back and remember, I warned you that we should buy the whole math program while we had the money. Now we're in trouble. So the town said no to the budget. Can we go ahead and spend the money out of this year's budget on Go Math or on a reading program?
Well, the short answer to that is, and I will check, double check, but the short answer to that is that no means no specifically to warrant articles. If you've got a specific warrant article and the warrant article goes down, then no means no, you can't order that. You've got a bottom line budget. So ultimately, you can adjust and spend your bottom line budget however the school board feels. The other question that was asked was, obviously, you can't purchase next year's items out of this year's budget. That's why we're trying to fast-track this and get it in so we can pilot it for the remainder of the school year and actually implement pieces of it this year. But we certainly can triple-check those questions that you have, bring it back to the next school board meeting, but at that point in time, we've really got to move quickly if we're going to be implementing and piloting anything for the remainder of this year.
And that's fine. We have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And at that point, if our legal counsel says it's okay to spend the money, even if the town said no, is that okay? And then I would ask Mrs. DePrey to bring in a presentation on the reading program so that we understand it and the value of it and why we're going to spend up to $65,815 on it.
Well, I
So
think
we don't have a school board meeting in 2 weeks. It's
21st, we do, I believe.
2 weeks.
3 weeks.
No.
April 7th.
Our next meeting is not till April 7th. And I'm not going to be here for that meeting, so I'd actually prefer to get this taken care of now.
Well, and I guess the whole thing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the program that we have right now is no longer
Out of print. It's out of print. We can't
Can't purchase anything
the items for next year's
anymore.
program.
So that's
we're
the
going to have
value
to
in
get
getting something
another program or buy pieces randomly of different things so that we can have a program if we're not having one that's a fully established program.
And this is, I'm assuming that the teachers and the you know, and everything have gotten together and met, and
Yes.
that this
We've-
is what
yes.
you're telling us is, you've looked at them, and this is what is best for what everybody is working with and everything right now, a good transition for everyone working
The
in
committee's been
these.
working. The committee's been working on it. The committee's had several meetings, probably 5 or 6, 7 or 8, and there's members of the committee that are in the audience who have been at those meetings. We've done pros and cons lists. We spent full days at presentations from the representatives on Wonders and the other program that we were looking at as well. Teachers spent the entire day, each half, looking at those programs. We did pros and cons lists. We have sample kits that the teachers have been using in their classrooms. They've been talking at team meetings about them. The committee has come back. We developed what works, what doesn't, what do we have for questions. People actually did site visits today to a school that is using the program and has been using the program for 3 years. And they got some great feedback and had some great response to that. We're also continuing to do some more site visits in a week or two at another school that's also using it. So they are fully invested. They are looking to just get additional information to support what they have determined as the program that's going to best meet our needs. I know Nottingham is also looking at this particular program, and a few area schools have recently adopted it. So there's a lot of people out there that are looking at this program. And initially, last year when we presented the wish list, we had thought that this was a program that we were going to potentially be looking at. And they had given us a quote last year for the 2014 version. This program has actually been changed since then. So we're actually making a purchase on the very newest and latest 2017 version, which is why there's a little bit of discrepancy in the price. It went up just a little bit from last year's quote, but it's Common Core aligned. There are indicators all throughout the textbook series to incorporate alignment with science and social studies. So that's another component that people were really excited about, was that it's very clearly identified that there's intention to utilize instructional time with science and social studies as a focus.
So if we voted tonight saying, if the lawyer says yes, that this is okay, you know, once you get the legal, because I understand what Tim's saying, if we get the legal okay for this, and we vote tonight and say, yes, go ahead once we have the legal okay, that way you don't have to wait 3 weeks to do this, and because then it's 3 weeks behind. If we get the legal advice by Monday or Tuesday or whatever, you can go forward with this by Monday.
Yeah, I mean, if
To
it,
ask about the presentation that Ms. DePrey was talking about, are we going to have an evaluation of the teachers' feedback on what they found when they used the program? When is this presentation supposed to take place? Obviously not tonight.
So we were looking to have the presentation happen at the April 7th meeting when we didn't know we were going to be looking to try to vote on this for a purchase this year as opposed to purchasing it in July. So we would still offer the presentation, people would still come in and explain all of the background behind the decision. We just were able to fast track a few of the meetings and actually make the decision now rather than making the decision after another site visit or two. So we would still bring that presentation to you. We would do it, I know you weren't here for that, but we would do it similarly to the way we did the math program last year, where we would present the pros and the benefits to it, what other programs might have lacked that this program has, and why we think it's going to best meet the needs of the Northwood population.
I'm really having a hard time with the rush here. I don't understand that. We weren't, if the budget passed, we weren't going to order it for next year.
Correct.
And now all of a sudden, we got to have it
Because we don't have
immediately.
the money
get
in the
that.
budget for next year.
I understand, but we've got
But we're working to pilot
the rest
it
of March,
anyways.
April,
Yeah.
May, and June. Why can't we have a presentation? I'm not going to vote until I know the legal, and have a presentation. I'm not going to spend $65,000 of taxpayer money, which went up $18,000 from last year. That's not a small amount, until I feel comfortable.
And that's great. You all had asked for us to give you the wish list for this meeting.
I
You all
understand,
had asked
and
for us to
that's
spend
fine.
down the
I'm
money
glad to have
sooner
it.
rather than later. So that's
But I
why
don't
this is on here.
understand the rush, why we can't approve this on April whatever, or the second meeting in April. What's the big deal? We
Well,
weren't
the
going to
rush
have it till
is,
next
the
year.
rush is that you shouldn't be purchasing next year's items out of this year's budget. So that's the rush, because we're bringing it to you so we can order the materials, get them in, and actually be piloting and utilizing some of those materials now. If we wait until the 1st of May or whenever to order these materials, by the time they get in, we're pushing the envelope as to whether we're purchasing next year's items out of this year's budget. Could we wait until the meeting in April? I believe we can. I would have to check with the company and see what the turnover time is, and actually, I mean, we could get the orders ready, we could get the presentation ready, we could do the presentation at the next time, I could get all the answers to your questions, and then as soon as we're done that meeting, move very rapidly. It's just going to limit another 3 weeks of implementation coming down the end of the school year.
And we have the vacation week in there at the end of April, too. We do have committee members that are here in the audience. I don't know if if you wanted to hear any feedback from them,
Not at this
5 of
time.
our primary people on the committee are out here, so.
And could I ask a question? I'm not following your thought of not being able to purchase something this year to be used next year. So where does that come from?
If you're purchasing something out of this year's budget, it should be utilized in this year.
Where does that come from?
Well, that's where the auditors are going to be looking at that. You can't purchase.
I mean, I've seen the school and the town and many other entities, in order to save money or in order to have a little money the next year, would buy something this year to be utilized next year. I'm not finding
Well, it's
that.
the same thing when we come down to the end of the year and we're
I'm not-
paving driveways.
I'm not looking for the end
things
of the
like
year.
that.
I'm
I
looking
mean,
for April.
We're getting, well, you can order it anytime you want.
Thank you.
I'm just giving you the advice.
I personally don't see what waiting a couple weeks or 3 weeks is gonna
I got a
accomplish.
question.
Was it?
You said that we're going to pilot the program because there's a default budget. Would we have piloted the program if the budget passed?
If the budget passed, the money would have been physically in next year's budget.
'Cause,
So what we were planning on doing was doing the
spend it
presentation to the school board, taking our time and ordering the materials and getting the order ready, and then July 1st was when we were going to order the materials and get that out of next year's budget. Now with the default budget, that is not in next year's budget, so we're trying to be frugal with our funds that we have this year to be able to support that program.
Because July 1 is when our budget starts here.
And it wouldn't be a pilot to try it out. It would be,
Pilot
it would be,
implementation.
it would be implementation. It would be a soft implementation this year for people to try to start using pieces of it, and then they would be fully implementing in the fall. Is there more information that anyone else is looking for? I mean, there's some different numbers on here. So I had put on the bottom of the page that the bottom line for these priorities, $60,000 would cover the reading program. There's total 65,000 on there. I'm looking to get that down. I think there's a couple options that we have to pull out a couple of things from the proposal to negotiate that to a $50,000 purchase. If we told them that this is our budget and we want to have all of these things, how are we going to do that? I think the woman is going to be pretty willing to work with us. So if we had the 60,000, that would cover the Wonders portion and it would cover the Foundations portion. And that would be fully inclusive. And the one thing to point out about the Foundations portion is I know this year we've had a lot of scrutiny on the kindergarten and the early literacy years. People have been looking for stats, they've been looking for data, they've been looking for instruction. This is going to help tremendously with being able to streamline what we're offering, to have a program that we're implementing with fidelity and that everybody is geared into and utilizing to the fullest extent possible, starting in K and moving on up through grade 5.
So, my opinion personally is that this is the number one, if this is the number one priority for the wish list that the school needs, and we have the money available, assuming that legality works out, I'd be in favor of definitely doing this. I don't think waiting 3 weeks and watching a presentation is going to change anything from my point of
Hear
view.
the justification for why this program was chosen over another program, and I don't know if I need a whole presentation about it, but maybe if some of the teachers who were involved in that could speak a little bit about it, I think I would feel a little better just to hear the reasoning
If you'd like
behind
to make a motion that we hear some reasoning, if they're available to do so, go for it. I mean, if the board agrees, I'd be okay with that.
it. So moved.
Second.
Everybody okay with getting some justification from the teachers for tonight? Yes? Anybody? Good.
Do you want to come up to the microphone so that Gary can hear you? Otherwise, he'll give you the evil eye.
And it's still on. I didn't turn it off.
Lauren, you don't have the pro and con list with you.
I don't have the list with me. There were two programs, it was Wonders and it was Journeys that we had looked at. We originally were looking at just Wonders. It was the newest program. It was the first program that came out that was aligned with the Common Core. Well, in the process, with us waiting until this year, Journeys came out with a program as well. So we figured we have time, let's research both and see which program was the better. And looking at them both, they both, at different spans of time, they both had great things. They both had areas that we felt like, we're not really sure. Obviously, both of them are, research-based. They have all of the components and the pieces. I think it came down to grade levels of preference for which grade levels liked, one program versus the other as far as easy to use. The Wonders program is more in sync with the program that we currently have, so it's not as much of a transition for teachers to learn a whole new program. A lot of the pieces still look similar and the same, so that was a big selling piece.
You're happy with the program that you currently have?
No,
You're not,
no.
but you want to get a program that's similar to it.
The only it's the same company, so the setup is the same as far as the teacher's manual, where to look for materials. That's the only, the content is totally different. I think it was the lower grades that were leaning more towards pieces and journeys that they liked better. But then when we talked about the implementation of foundations for them, they felt like perfect. It kind of satisfied both needs for them. Does that help?
It helps.
I do have some more notes that they had given from the committee. The new series, this one offers more choice for teachers in the areas of assessments and allows for all assessments to be edited. That was a big piece for us, is sometimes they give assessments and they're not editable, so you have to use it as is or mark it up to have students be able to use it. This particular series and the revision of it for 2017, they're all editable, so teachers can manipulate the assessments so that they can have certain pieces that they want to focus on or eliminate ones that they don't think are necessary or the kids aren't ready for. So that was a big selling point. It provides a wider range of text levels, creating more experience with text for students, and they have more challenging texts for students to work with, which was attractive. There's more instruction in closed reading strategies, which provides kids with more instruction and experience with deep analysis of text. It has many technology resources, which was something else that was something that they were looking at very favorably, including online access to stories, vocabulary, and spelling. It can be assigned by the teacher and differentiated for students at different ability levels. Teachers in the older grades have more flexibility with the anthology or the main selection story, and they can use novels to supplement in place of other stories, so they can still utilize some other pieces that they're comfortable using. And it does provide the recommended ratio of fiction to nonfiction text. Common Core calls for more proficiency with nonfiction text for students. It also provides students with practice, integration, text information, and completing performance tasks, similar to what's asked of SBAC. So there's definitely some preparation in format to the tasks they're going to be asked to do for that particular assessment, which we all have to take at this point. And teachers have access to a great deal of technology to use for their planning purposes, so the teachers are fully supported with the pieces of the program that they have access to. And the professional development with this program is provided cost-free. It's part of the package, but they don't do an upcharge as they present it for the professional development to support the teachers.
That's training the teachers how
Yep.
to use the, okay.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, so I don't mind making a motion that if the legal opinion is that it's okay to do this, but I guess my question is you're saying, what are you asking for? On here, it says 65,815, but then you're saying 60. So I guess I'm not sure what I'm making a
I
motion,
think it's
how
up-
much.
probably up to, right? Because it sounds like she's going to try to negotiate.
So,
that.
you know, I gave you some items, and again, this came on top of the default budget. So if you looked at page 2, there were some items that didn't come near to, aside from the lighting, that didn't come near to anywhere close to $100,000. So we were thinking that all of these things could be something that you all would support. When you add these on top of it, then these priorities now become the priority. So we were hoping that we wouldn't have to give up the entire back page, because there are some things on that back page, but I wasn't sure what dollar value you were looking to get up to. If you're looking to get up to $125,000, and we can incorporate the full values of these programs on the front page, plus the majority on the back, then that's great. I wanted to be conservative and say, if 65 is too much, and you all think that you would like something that is a little bit more conservative, rather than go with option 2, which is 47,000, and eliminates 2 grades entirely, I still want to be able to provide for this building all 5 grades, 6 grades, if you count kindergarten, all 6 grades. So I do believe that with 60,000, we would be able to get all 6 grades, because there would be a little bit left in our default budget that would cover any excess if I can't get to that $50,000 amount. So we're looking at 50,000 for the Wonders and roughly 10 for the early literacy with Foundation. So 60,000 for the reading program package would cover everything that we need.
If you're spending the money now, though, you can't use next year's budget.
No, but if there were supplemental materials we needed to buy, or if there
Next
was
year.
something that we needed, an extra reading, an extra text package, or something like that.
Something after
We could,
June.
we could pull that off of the original quote, and she could allow us to purchase it as a supplemental material next year.
I see. Okay.
I mean, if you would like to approve the 65,815, then that's absolutely what we would ask for as a priority. I just want to be fair to you all if that seems like you would approve this front page and nothing from the back. These are our priorities, so
Well,
it's,
to me, the front page is the priorities.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
as a parent, the back page is a wish list.
Yep.
As a parent, the front page is
Is a
not a
necessity.
wish list, it's a priority. So, I mean, that's just me personally. So,
Do
I,
the other schools in the SAU use these particular programs, or no?
Nottingham is looking at a new program, and Wonders is one they are strongly considering. They're also in a search for a new program.
Thank you.
I don't know what Stratford uses.
Not currently.
They don't have one.
so I would motion to, again, if approved, if this is okayed and once it's sent out to the board, that it's okayed through legal. the, I guess, 65,815 to buy the Wonders program,
I suggest up to.
up to 65,815.
And foundations, it's two different,
Oh,
it's
sorry.
part of the same package, option one.
Foundations and Wonders, sorry, the two together.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
So, yes, there is.
Really, we should probably have the motions first and then have the discussion moving forward.
Yeah,
but-
we never do that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tim, sorry.
I don't understand the rush. I'm not sure if 65,815 is gonna cover everything, or do they have to take money out of next year to add any incidentals? I don't know how we can spend $65,815 of taxpayers' money without having a lot more definitive answers than what we've gotten tonight. That's how I feel, and that's how I'm gonna vote. It's not that I'm against a reading program. I don't see the rush. I really don't.
65,815 would cover everything. I have the quotes here, so if somebody wanted to listen to a list of what that includes for each grade, I have those itemized right in my hand. I didn't copy them for the packet because I just didn't know that you would need that or want that specific
I think I'm good.
information, but 65,815 would cover everything.
Trees.
Any further discussion? We all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nope.
Passes 4-1.
No, Bree, were you a yes? Yeah, 4-1. Oh, yeah, 4-1.
Thank you.
Moving on to list. Somebody like to make a motion for the
Motion.
math program, and then we can just have a discussion.
Motion for, they say, Go Math program grades 4 through 6.
What's the total?
So there's three different options on there. Again, depending on what the funds available were, we can go with 6 years, we can go with a 6-year premium package, which does include smarter balance practice kits and manipulatives, which I would be in support of. They're sending me some samples of those, but that's the difference between the two hybrid 6-year purchases or the hybrid 3-year bundle. Right now, we're in year 2 of a 3-year bundle for 7 and 8. So we would be looking at next year doing the final phase, which would be the 1 through K through 3.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, we're in a,
So we're in year 2
yeah,
of a 3-year bundle for the current program.
and
So
that's 7, 8.
that's for the 7, 8. So after next year, after 17 and 18,
Yep.
that one would expire. So for 18, 19, we would be looking to do something else with 7, 8. But for 17, 18 would be when we would add K3. So we can look at 3 years or we can look at 6 years. If we look at 6 years with 4 to 6, then we would look at 1 to 3, potentially 6 years. And at that point, we would then add the next 3 years for the 7, 8. We only purchased the 3-year bundle for 7 and 8 last year because we weren't sure about the program. It seems like it's working well. I got some good feedback from Co Brown in particular. It looks like the program is working well. So we would be needing to consider in future budgets what we're going to do with the 7 and 8 program.
Isn't this our first year with 7 and 8?
Yes.
Yes.
So how could
it
anything
was
be
year
from
two.
Co-Brown be regarding Go Math?
No, it's not Go Math, it's
All
the
right.
Pearson. It's
Thank
the
you.
algebra with the Pearson. But she's aligning the Pearson and the Go Math for 8th grade, because she does both of those.
So your preference here,
Yes.
if you could have whatever you wanted, it would
Yes.
be the 29,000 for the 6-year premium.
Yes, because then we'd have 6 years with 4 through 6, and then we can add the K to 3, and we can add the 7 and 8 after we add the K to 3, so that everybody's doing the same thing, K to 8.
So that's part of that price?
Well,
Or
no,
that'd
that's
be
not part of that
further
price,
years?
but if we did the 6 years, then we wouldn't have to worry about adding more to those grades
That-
until
in 3
that
years.
6 years expires.
Gotcha. Understand. So if we did this, in your view, in 3 years, we would purchase one more program for K to 3, or 1 to 3?
Yep, the following year, we would do K to 3.
And at that point, we would be on a full program for the entire school.
Yeah.
Until 2018-19, when we have to renew the
Start renewing
70.
things, okay.
What is K through 3 using now?
Envisions. K through 6 has Envisions. but Envisions didn't have a 7 and 8 component. So we needed a program in 7 and 8 for this current year. So last year, we voted in for the Go Math, and we looked at K to 8 programs, expecting that when we purchased a 7-8 program, it would be one that we would maintain and build down instead of building up. So it is the first year of the 7 and 8. So we would have 2 more years in that bundle with 7 and 8. Budget years, we only have 1 more year, but 2 more years of implementation. So we're doing 4 to 6 this coming year, and then the following year we would do K to 3. So we would have K through 8, a seamless math program, which has been requested since my first day here. And then we would have some scaffolding in terms of building up the rest of the year so they all wouldn't expire at the same time.
What do the 7 and 8 teachers think of the Go Math program so far?
It's busy. They like it. It's tough to transition your 7th and 8th graders after they've had years of another program. So they're working through it. It's a solid program. I mean, once everybody gets on it, I think once we get 4 to 6 and 4 to 6 starts feeding into the 7 and 8, 7 and 8 is going to start feeling a lot more comfortable with it because kids are going to be feeding into it. They've had to do a lot of transition work because kids weren't feeding in having had that program. So they've spent time and they have looked at resources to try to transition as well as fully implement the program.
So part of the history here is the reason I did 7th and 8th grade first last year was because we had no program for 7th and 8th. So this was, unfortunately, it would have been nicer to start this, I think, in earlier grades and then, filter people up, but they needed something for the 7th and 8th, and so they wanted to use this as a pilot year, get some people with experience with it, and get some mentors for if we expanded it to the further grades. That's the history behind that.
What's the overall consensus with the teachers on if we went with a 6-year? Is it, because we only have one program that we're going off of right now, so that's 7-8. Is this really what everybody wants? Is it the consensus with the whole?
Everybody can't speak to it because everybody's not as familiar with it as the 7th and 8th grade teachers are.
Compared to the program that they were using previously, were they also using the Envisions program?
Well, K to 6 was using Envisions, and K to 6 folks, they like the Envisions. They've had it.
There's no 7 and 8.
There's no 7 and 8 and no future for 7 and 8. We were hoping that they, over time, would develop a 7 and 8 program, so potentially, that was another reason to go with the 3 years. Potentially, if they did come out with a 7 and 8, we could consider that against Go Math to see if either one of those was more preferable.
What do the K through 6 think of the Go Math then, since they're the ones that would be hypothetically transitioning to this new program? How do they feel about it?
They haven't taught with it. They haven't had the experience with it. They're gonna be learning it. They're gonna be trained in it. They're gonna have sample kits that they're gonna be working with. It's a literacy-rich program. It is a literacy-rich program.
Were they part of the
The committee.
They were part of the selection committee.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, they were part of the selection committee that had many more pros to support the Go Math program. But they also weren't the ones that are going to be utilizing it. In fairness to them, they were supporting it because they supported the program, but they haven't been utilizing it, so they are not able to speak about this particular year's experience.
Is this the Go Math one? Are we in the same boat, I guess, Bob, with the Go Math as we are with the reading? Like, if we waited to do this until the 7th, and if we could ask maybe the 7th and 8th grade math teachers if they would be willing to come and talk to us and,
Well, I believe we are,
same boat.
what portion of this was in the budget that was cut out with the default, Wendy?
29.
That was the
Yep.
piece that was in there, so we are in the same boat.
We did see the presentation on Go Math last year, at least
Yeah.
some of us did, right? I personally don't need to see it again, but.
I agree. Last year, we could have bought 6 years of Go Math for the entire school for $85,000. And now, looking at these figures, it's gonna cost far more than that. It's a crying shame. But anyway, that battle's lost, so anyway.
So are you in support of it? So from seeing it from last
We
year?
need a seamless math program, yes, so I am in support of it. I still don't see the rush, but I'm I understand the Go Math.
I don't understand the Go Math.
I just, you know,
I'm glad you do.
it's just the way we're going about it, just seems crazy, you know, just in spits and pieces.
Yeah, but
Okay, is there a motion to approve this then?
I just don't know if the 6-year is the way to go. I just wonder if we should do the 3-year and, you know, make sure that this is the right program for the school.
3 years, 22,000,
Yeah, I mean, look at
or
the,
21,000, 6 year is 29,000. So if we keep buying it in years of 3, we're
they're paying a lot
paying,
more. Yeah.
you know, 50% more.
Yeah.
But if we buy 6 years of it for 30,000,
I'd rather
and
take
it's
an
not the
8,000
right-
loss though, on that, and saying the program's crap than to, I'd rather take that gamble and on 6 years and then take it on just 3.
I'll make the motion then. So.
Second.
Oh. I didn't even get to finish my motion. Oh. Exactly. I guess it says here that the bottom line is 89,000 total would cover, but, I mean, I guess that's it.
That's-
If
Well,
I
that's
make
when
a-
I
That's
was
talking about
shaving
for
off the
reading and
top.
math.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
It depends on which one you want to go
29.
with now.
so
Since you
if I
already
made-
approved the 65,815, then it would just be a matter of adding the other number. I was trying to see if
Okay.
if it was too high a number, we could negotiate the reading program. But since you've already approved that reading program, it's just going to be a matter of what you feel you want to be able to support with the 3 years. If you feel the 3 year is the way to go, then we can certainly look at 3 years, because it would still stagger when the current program is going to expire and when the new program would potentially expire, so.
So my motion, I guess, is for the Go Math program for grades 4 through 6 for $29,929. Up to, sorry, up to. Am I speaking loud enough?
Second still?
Second,
Okay.
still.
Any further discussion? All right, in that case, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh,
Any opposed?
again, just as a caveat, I guess it's that, the same thing applies, Bob, you know, we're
Yep.
still waiting for that, whatever,
Sure.
legal opinion.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to go one by one? Wendy, just give us brief.
Yep. Yeah, so these are pretty self-explanatory. So on the backside, the fire safe cabinets for special ed, we realized that there had been a request prior to even my arrival last year that new file cabinets be purchased for the special ed office. They were purchased, but they were not fireproof cabinets for whatever reason. Legally, we are obligated to provide fireproof cabinets for the storage of special education materials. So we were able to put 2 fireproof cabinets in the budget already and have bought them. They're already in, we just got them. We are looking to purchase 2 more so that we have a total of 4, and that would house all of our special ed documentation, all of our records. So that's what that is. It's $2,053 for 2 more cabinets that are required to be fireproof. We shopped around. They're usually $1,600 to $1,800 a piece. We found a really good deal, and they're good cabinets, so we can get 2 of them for $2,053, including shipping. So that's why that one's on the top of the list, because that's a legal requirement, and we'd just like to make sure that we can be in compliance and have sufficient storage space. There's a little less storage space in each one of these because they're not as deep as the current cabinets we have, but that would complete that and ensure that all those records are kept safe.
Can I ask a quick question? I know this is something that we've discussed at the joint board. Are we looking at, I don't even know, microfiching or whatever it's
Digitizing.
called?
Yeah,
Digitizing some of those.
we're eventually going to, but in the short term, I mean, we still need fireproof cabinets, so.
And there's none at the SAU that are being emptied out
Not
with
yet.
the, okay.
not yet.
The SAU file cabinets, for the most part, we don't have that many that are fireproof. Just the special ed ones are.
In
and-
this back office.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering.
The other thing that we are doing is we are recycling the cabinets that are in the special ed office. A couple people had put in requests for regular file cabinets, but because of this, we told them we would hand down the ones we currently have. So I took those out of the budget requisitions that I submitted with the hope that we would get these 4 cabinets, and then all those other 4 cabinets would then be shared with other people that are in need of them in the building, like the school psychologist needed one, and So I don't know, do you want to be handling each one of these totally separately,
Yeah.
or do you want?
Yeah, we'll just do it one by one.
Okay.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I guess if it's a legal requirement and we don't have it, I'll make a motion for up to $2,053 for fire-safe cabinets for special education.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Tractor.
The tractor, so this is, I have a full quote in here for the tractor somewhere. But basically, the tractor is in need of repair. The tractor is something that we would look to trade in and get a credit for. So the amount of money on there doesn't include the trade-in value. The trade-in value is estimated at $4,000 roughly. So what we would be looking at for the tractor would be probably $16,000 with the trade-in included. But he's looking for, Mr. Tom is looking for a year-round machine. There's some safety concerns with the current machine. It is 14 years old. This new Simplicity Legacy 27 would have a front-end loader, it would have a snow blower, it would have a subframe, and it would have a snow cab. And the quote should be, did I include the quote? Should be in the packet. I have the Simplicity tractor quote is in the packet on page 39. So you can see the different pieces of it. The tractor itself is $11,699. The front end loader adds $4,000 to it. The snow blower adds $2,400. The subframe adds $949, and the snow cab adds $1,200. And again, that's before trade-in.
So how much is a trade-in?
Estimated around $4,000.
So really what we need is like 16,245-ish?
Estimated, yes.
What kind of estimate do we have for taking the old tractor and repairing it such that it's functional for a number of more years?
I don't know that that was something that was looked at as potentially that safe. There's a subfloor issue that is in need of repair and or rotting, so I don't know that that's going to be something that can easily be replaced at a cost that would be worth doing it. I can certainly find that part out. I mean, I can get that detail for you if you were looking for that detail, but this is looked at as a safety concern. We have yet to ever be closed for a snow day because our staff could not clean up the area sufficiently. People have mentioned, why don't we just get a lot of snow blowers and not worry about this bigger tractor, but it would definitely cut down on the efficiency of how we're able to address the snow cleanup when there is snow cleanup necessary.
So I'll make a motion for a new tractor up to $20,245.
I have an issue. If we
Oh, we need a
open up for
second, or
discussion.
we need a second, or we can't.
We can have a second and then amend it as well.
Yeah.
So that's always a possibility. I will second it so we can have a discussion.
I'm just, I mean, for one, I mean, 14 years old, we're just finally learning about this tractor having issues. And we don't know how much it's going to cost to fix a tractor. I mean, a 14-year-old tractor is really not that old of a tractor. I mean, if you're working on a tractor that only has a two-wheel drive and it's got chains on it, does it have four-wheel drive? Is it still running? I mean, what are the other issues? I mean, $21,000, are there any other quotes that we got from other companies around here that are willing to, compete on that price? But, I mean, 14-year-old tractor, I've seen the tractor. I mean, if it needs a subfloor, that could be fixed. I want to know how much that's going to cost.
Fair enough.
Can you tell me also what the tractor is used for? If it's for plowing, it's my
Year-round
underst-
maintenance, it's plowing and snow, plowing and
grass. It's my understanding that the town plows the school's lot, is that true?
Portions of it are town,
Okay.
portions of it are, the portions surrounding our building are our responsibility.
Okay.
We do the parking lot, the town does the parking lots and the driveways. So the majority of it.
So what's left? Just
The town
walkways?
doesn't do the sidewalks. It doesn't, for instance, do the entrance right out here, the entrance at the front door. and in some cases, the tractor's used for some of that.
But a snow blower isn't sufficient to take
I
care
would
of
argue that it is, but, you know, people like tractors. But we mow with it? Yeah, so there is
Ah,
grass fields to mow and things like that.
okay.
There is that. But I mean, I mean, my tractor is a 1972 tractor, so, and it's still going just fine. I really don't understand that a 14-year-old tractor is an old tractor.
Yeah, I'd like to see a comparison. I mean, 20,000 is a big ticket item when, you know, if it's gonna cost a couple grand to fix a tractor.
I can certainly get any and all that information. We can get a second quote, we can get a repair quote.
I'd like to see a repair quote just to compare.
Yeah, I can do that.
And that should, we should,
I was gonna say
you know,
another-
I've argued for years that the guy we used is, we should use somebody a little more local, and, you know, we should look at that too, is get 2 repair or 3 repair quotes on the tractor. It's, we've just used one guy ever since I've been on the board. Not that he isn't good, I don't know him from anybody else, it just, there's plenty of local people.
Yeah, I can look at that.
Okay, so Barb, would you like to retract your motion?
I can certainly bring this
All right,
back.
I'll retract the second. And, yep, we can look at this again, next time maybe.
So the next one is counter for the art room. So there's a request, we've been, and this has been ongoing since last year, when we addressed storage issues in the art room, trying to maximize the square footage, maximize the workspace, try to maximize the way we store things and the organization of that room. We did a lot of work to clean a lot of that room out. We're continuing to clean that room out, because there's lots of things that are stored there that aren't used, that don't need to be stored, that have been shared with other people. Other classrooms, other needs in other areas. So Mr. O brought it to our attention, and this was just recently, that's why you're getting it just now. This came to me probably 2 days or 3 days before the board report was due, but he's looking to make that space much more efficient and install a workspace counter along those 2 full walls, which is why we put the picture in there. It would have storage underneath, it would all be enclosed. There would be a workspace for students to be able to be working at a counter, so there'd be some bigger shared spaces all up against the wall with all the storage underneath it. There would be a surface on there, Formica surface on there, that would allow students to be able to be working on whatever projects they were working on, and the quote is included. So in the paperwork that's in here, you can see that, whatever page it's in. There's pictures of what it would look like, but it's a request. The price came in a lot lower than we were anticipating, actually. So that's why, you know, I thought it was gonna come in at some crazy number like $15,000, $16,000. It came in at $8,500 for both walls, all the full cabinets. There would be drawers underneath the Formica, so they'd have drawers for all their tools that they would be using, and then the bigger storage for all the supplies.
Thanks.
Put it out to bid, other than just one guy?
No, because we didn't, because
So
we
you're
needed to get it in the
violating
packet,
policy
so.
again,
We can certainly do that with this particular item if that's what
Right,
you would
let's-
request.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Wendy, one question for you. Is this wish list in order of preference or just now just items listed?
Well, it was in order of preference for consideration, yes. We were hoping that these items that are closer to the top would be considered more strongly. If there's more information needed for them, then that's certainly something that we can bring back. So would you like me to bring back 1 or 2 more quotes for the art counters?
I think so.
Yes, please.
I think that needs bids. I think it needs to go out to bid. I think our threshold is $5,000. And I think that has to go out to
For
bid.
an RFP?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we
quotes
got-
is not near good enough.
Plenty of cabinet and granite places in town that would probably bid for that.
Touch base with Linda, and you can put a bid spec together.
We can do that. The water fountains, I know it had come up, and we put this on there because we had been talking about it, talking about replacing 1 or 2 of the water fountains because of the material with which the water fountain is made and the water passing through it. The recommendation was made to consider updating the water fountains when we had the water testing done. The water's completely safe coming through it. The water test proved that they were safe, and I sent those on to you guys. But the recommendation was still existing that the water fountains be updated. So we did provide a quote for you for 2 water fountains. I don't have it in writing because we didn't have it in writing at the time of this printing, but it was $22,1992 for 2 water fountains that would include refrigeration.
I make a motion for 2 water fountains,
Again, was that put out for,
Let's get the motion in a
Doesn't have
second, then we
to.
can have a discussion.
$2,219.92, or $2,220.
Is there a second?
second.
All right, discussion.
Yeah, was it, again,
Matching.
I believe this was only put out for one person. I believe that was, I believe I read somewhere was only one person.
Yep, it was only one
Rescue
quote.
Plumbing, I guess there was.
Yep, it was only one quote. Rescue Plumbing. And the 2 fountains are the 3-4 hallway and the 7-8 hallway. If you'd like more bids, we can get more bids.
This is something where we don't need to go through, it's under the limit,
Under
right?
5,000.
Well,
If you'd like more
this
quotes.
one should have estimates.
Right.
So there's a threshold for estimates, there's a threshold for bids. And this should require 2 or 3 estimates. I mean, we've got plenty, Bassett Heating and Plumbing, we've got plenty of outfits in this town, and it's very healthy for them all to know that we're looking at all of them and looking for the best price. It's just healthy.
So we could approve for spending the money up to that amount with the instruction that more bids be taken.
You're right, we could do that. I don't understand the rush. I mean,
Well, there's,
why we don't,
rush?
follow our policy? If you're not gonna follow policy, why have it? The policy is, before we approve stuff, we need either 3 quotes or 3 bids. I don't see the problem with that.
fair enough.
We've got 2 or 3, 4 months left in the end of the year, to do this correctly.
Good.
Once again, the rush is that the school board requested that we bring forward a wish list. Now, this is, I wouldn't view as time-sensitive, the water fountain, because we certainly could and should get 3 quotes on any of these items and still be able to get them in and get the work done by the end of the school year. That's not an issue. The reason that, Wendy's bringing forward 1 quote on some of these is because this list was put together very rapidly since the last meeting, and it would make sense to me that it is reasonable that anything like the water fountain, if that's something that the board is interested in, then we could direct administration to get additional quotes and spend the time on getting those additional quotes. And again, something like a water fountain is certainly not time sensitive.
Well, are those water fountains currently off? You said you would turn some off because of the.
One is
readings.
off, one is not.
One's off and one's not.
Yep.
So I'll take back my motion.
So I would recommend a nod of approval on items here that you're
Right.
thinking about that we're going to spend additional time on getting quotes. If there's something here that you're just flat out not going to support or not interested in, then we won't spend time on tracking down additional quotes.
So I think it's safe to say that if we saw more bids for this, we would definitely be interested in replacing those fountains
That's safe to say.
moving forward. Yes,
More quotes for that.
more quotes, yes, more quotes. And if our policy says 3, let's really try to get 3. No.
I also wanted in this wish list to provide kind of an overview of all of the things, even if some did need further investigation. I wanted to just give you an idea of what it would all look like in terms of a wish list, so we weren't bringing new items to you 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now. This
No,
is,
it's getting the ball rolling, I think, is important to
Yeah,
do, right?
okay.
Whether or not we approve it today, it's fine. I mean, if we tell you what we want to see and the type of money we're
Yep.
willing to spend
Yep,
money
that's
on
great.
is good. So even
So
if we
the-
don't approve it tonight.
the next 2 might be a little simpler. The stage mats, we've been looking for quite some time, just talking about trying to protect the front of the stage and to protect the kids from the front of the stage, because we have so many activities going on in there, gym classes, sporting events, and we don't have a proper covering on the front of the stage to protect students and protect the activity from that area. So we did price out stage mats. I've been working with Mr. White to look at what we would need and what would be beneficial for us to have up there. And the quote that we got to do custom mats to put up on the stage, all along the front of the stage, is 2162, and that would cover the length, and they'd be in certain segments, but it would cover the whole length. Right now, we have a couple of things up there piecemeal, folded over to the top of the stage just for that main area, but this would cover the whole front of the stage. And the other piece, if I can talk about both of these together, the stage doors and gates, which is right under it, is, as long as I've been here, there have been discussions about access to the stage and the fact that our storage has been limited, drama has been moved out of certain classroom spaces and is now fully housed in the stage area. There's a lot of equipment up there. We have some locked spaces, but we have some spaces that the items are just too big. So the areas on the stage, and Ms. Plor's nodding her head because she's the assistant stage person, but there's a safety issue. And as much as we say that we're going to ensure that people don't go up on the stage during games or during activities, we've put chairs up there, we've put signs up there, we've put tape up there, we've put people over there. And somehow, we still find out the next day that stuff has been tampered with, or trash has been left up there. We've gone up there and teams have left wrappers, and there have been small holes poked in stage sets from like lollipop sticks. And as much as we try to police it personally, it just doesn't work. You just can't be at that area all the time. And we've talked to coaches to say you can't go up there, and the next thing you know, there's a team up there that's changing their clothes for a game. I know that's how it's always been in the past, so people are pretty used to doing that, but we have changed what we use that space for. So the stage doors or gates, we've been looking at how to best block that area in a way that was clearly make that area inaccessible when there are events going on. And what we finally figured out was probably the most viable option is to do these 6 to 9 foot portable gates. They're 78 inches high, so they're very high. They're not like a chair. They're going to be very high, and they're going to be able to be in the doorway. So clearly, they're going to block the door. They're not affixed to either of the walls. We looked at trying to get gates that swung open or swung out or could close or were bifold or anything like that. There's not a lot of products out like that, but because we have the elevator in there and because we have some fire boxes around the doors and some other railings, it's a little trickier to look at installing something that's actually going to open or close. But this particular gate could serve the function of actually being placed in that doorway span so that it blocks the area. In other events where that wouldn't be necessary, those, since they'd be portable, would be useful for other purposes if we had a reason to block off certain areas for something else. So even though we would be looking at them for the stage, they would be not affixed to the wall, so they would be purposeful for other things if we were doing some sort of event and we needed them when we were outside or something.
There's friction attached by like expanding in the doorway or something?
Well, they don't, yeah, they're just, they expand up against the wall. So they're bigger things so that people, it would be very cumbersome to move them. So they would be visibly, and I have a picture of one, I didn't put everything in the packet, but it would be visibly clear that that's a no entry area.
I'd love to see a picture. I just can't imagine a little 6 to 9 foot gate, $1,100.50. That's just crazy. There's got to be a cheaper way to close off those two doors than that. And what's going to stop people from just stepping up on the stage?
One issue that I see is to eliminate, because you got eyes on, is to keep, I know there's storage back there and it looks ugly, but open up the curtains. Curtains open, you're going to see people doing something wrong. Curtains are always closed.
I have one copy, so if you want to look at it and pass it around. I would be concerned about opening that, because if you're in a basketball game, you can't have that curtain open and have the potential for basketballs flying onto the stage with all of that
There's
stage
certain
equipment.
times that, yeah, you can close it, but I mean, you don't know. A gym teacher might not see a kid run back there and take something to do something or hide back there. I mean, if it's open, you can see. It'll be less to do damage if they're open. But
Yeah, but you might want them open during basketball games too, though. Right? If you want to see, because there are lots of people hanging around, out of town people even getting back there. I've seen out of town girls running around the inside the school before, coming to one of these meetings. While this is going around, do we want to have a motion for the stage mats? We can talk-
Right, those are
do that
two separate
separately?
things. I was just talking about the two because they were related to the stage. They're definitely two separate things.
They look like, thank you. I know I'm probably going to get shot for this, but I just,
Have a motion. Let's have a motion in a second,
Oh, yeah.
then we can. then we
motion
can
for
vote.
the stage mats for $2,162.
Second.
Discussion.
So I know I'm going to get shot for this, but when I looked at this list, I kind of was disappointed that 3-4 of the things on here were all related to drama. After we already, and it's not that I don't like drama, because both of my kids are in drama, they love drama, but there's nothing here. I feel like,
I totally agree with you.
yeah, I felt like
However,
everything was about the drama, and there was nothing in here for
I think these stage
3
mats,
through
these
4,
stage mats aren't
3,
for
4,
their.
5, 6. Like,
Yeah.
was anybody else asked? Were any of the other teachers asked about anything?
About this particular thing, those stage mats, so if I get this right, maybe
And
I'm wrong,
that's-
is to put it up there so that kids who are in gym running around.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's
crash
not a
into the
drama thing.
stage.
That's
This
a
is
phys ed thing.
Right, this
The
is just a
stage mats
safety
is a
thing.
phys ed
for-
thing.
So maybe that one. So 4 of them.
Yeah, we can talk about the other stuff when we talk about those motions.
And
but
I do have a response
But-
for that. Just I'll give you.
That's
a
fine,
response
we'll get to
after.
it.
But it's just, that was my big concern, is that I just felt like, drama was very, very, very well represented in this wish list, and,
Let's talk about the mats, so.
okay.
Wendy, do you have the quote for that? It just seems kind of high to me.
mats?
I don't know anything about protection mats, if it has to be, CTE certified or whatever, but I know $2,100 for mats is,
They probably
seems
have to be
expensive to me.
fireproof, and, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
It's from a company that we do most of our gym equipment purchasing from. And I will say, I mean, I asked for wish list items, and a lot of folks were able to give wish list items that were purchased already. Teachers from every single grade, from every single area, pretty much supplied me with wish list items that actually were items that we were able to use the current budget to purchase. So,
Let's talk about mats. That's our motion. All right. So any other discussion about stage mats? You
Oh, yeah, I'm just fine with it.
satisfied?
Yeah, just, the facilities committee needs to, we need to be more on top of this. I mean,
Yeah.
so, just.
Well, you just
put
formed
that
an
out
hour
there.
ago, so.
Yeah, throw that out there. Throw that out there.
I'll give you a break on this one. All right, any other discussion for the stage mats?
Did we look anywhere else other than just one company?
we looked at different catalogs, but this was a catalog that seemed to have what we were looking for. I mean, there's not a lot that we found.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of buying the stage mats?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Was that, yes?
Yeah.
All right, 5-0. Okay, on to this stage doors and gates.
So, are
Let's have a motion, and a
the
second.
doors going up? I'm
Hold on,
sorry, you
Well,
want-
let's have a motion second, then we can have a discussion.
All right, motion to spend up to $2,201 on stage doors.
Second.
Go ahead, Tim.
These are for the two doors on either side, is that
Where the
right?
steps are, yeah.
So on the left-hand side, I mean, you're right, we need a facilities committee meeting before we discuss this stuff. I don't even understand, the door on the left-hand side, what is that, 2 feet wide? I'm just trying to think of all of the
3 to
kids
4
that come
feet.
in and out at graduation, I don't think it's 4 feet. I'm tempted to walk down and look at it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
we can certainly do that.
The one on the right side is a little wider.
It is.
You know, why would we need a door that expands 6 to 9 feet? In addition,
I can look to see if there were smaller ones. I didn't see smaller length ones. 6 was the smallest one that I found.
the gabbers behind me are saying that other schools have these. I've never seen them. And maybe that's true, but one of the concerns I would have is those legs that are sticking out with kids playing basketball and stuff, and running into those with a head seems very dangerous to me. So then are we gonna need mats to cover the legs of the 6 to 9 expanding door for a 2.5-foot door?
And this,
I think the facilities committee needs to look at that
and this,
whole thing.
I mean, these can be circumvented by simply climbing up on the stage and going back.
That's what I was
right?
saying, it doesn't keep you off the stage. If the
That
stage
doesn't,
just has
yeah.
a curtain in front of it, then that's
Yeah, yeah.
easy enough to get by, and then the doors serve no purpose.
No, but we don't have, if you're in the course of a game, a lot of kids and a lot of people will sneak up behind the stage to hang out when it's dark, and teams will go up there to change. Teams aren't going up the front of the stage. If they're going up the front of the stage, it's easy to say, hey, wait, you can't go up there. I mean, the signs say don't go up there. It's when they sneak up, or they walk through a doorway and they sneak behind there and they fool around, or they hide, or they play a game, or they play hide and seek, or whatever they do up there.
I think a chain saying, do not enter, it's that, because, or something, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like the
a
athletic
door.
director needs to have a talk with the,
We've done that. I've talked to team coaches. I mean, we've both been there. We've both been in the doorways. We've both stopped it, and then kids are still accessing that area.
So if you do put those doors up and the kids are gonna sneak up under the curtain, then? Or we don't-
Possibility, yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
just- But less likely they're going to do that because they're going to be seen. It's easier to sneak around
Yeah, I
the
haven't
side.
seen the stage, so I just want, is it hidden, the door?
No,
Off
they're
to
wide
the
open.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
Can we put a door in there?
We looked at we tried, we had a door guy come in
Yeah.
to try to figure out how to put a door in there. But because of the way the elevator is, and because of the way the handles are, it would be very hard to put a door in there. We looked at bifold doors, we looked at a screen, we looked at a few different things, or asked about a few different things, because we certainly want to have this be an efficient solution that's going to be preventative. And it didn't seem like there were going to be many options based on the configuration. I'm happy to bring the facilities committee in there to look at
Yeah,
it.
it
I'm
sounds like
happy
the
to-
facilities committee is very
It's not
interested
an
in that, so
urgency,
let's-
but again, I wanted to
let's just do
present it
that.
to you in a comprehensive list to say, this is something we're really looking to address. If it means putting a couple of chains on there, I mean, the chains are going to be dangerous if kids are trying to run through there or don't see them. So we thought that wouldn't be the best option.
I'd say, if everybody agrees with me, that we'll table this for now, have the facilities committee look into it.
I'm good with that. Motion to
We'll
table.
bring it back. Okay. All good? All right.
That sounds great. And just to speak about the stage stuff, I was mentioning that people had given me wish list items from the classrooms, and a lot of people got a lot of things. Somebody wanted a sound system for one of the grades, and I was able to get the sound system from the current year's budget, and they're gonna be able to use it now. So if you're looking for things for 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math bought like $1,500 worth of things to help supplement the math program. So there are a lot of things, and that's what you're signing papers for in these manifests. There are a lot of things that have been bought, K through 8. All those requests came in, and so many of those requests were honored. New whiteboards, music board with music staff on it, a ton of stuff. So we were able to do that. A lot of reason why there's some different stage-related items is because Becky Rush is so active with the program that she's always looking at what she's going to need 2 and 3 and 4 years down the road. These things have been on her wish list for a while. These things have been things that she's been looking at to try to get with the money that she raises from the fundraisers that they do. So these are always on her mind. So when you mention, oh, we might have some extra funds, she's like, oh, I have some things, if there's any funds that they can put towards us. She's not trying to be greedy, she's not trying to be selfish with that program, but they are always looking at what they need to do because their money is raised so slowly that they have long-term plans for their money. That's why the lighting is on here. The lighting, for example, is a long-term plan. It's $20,000, $30,000 if you look at all those phases of lighting.
Let's just go through the rest of this list here. I got it. She, very dedicated.
All right. So let's talk about the funds for the stage organization project. Wendy?
She wants to mount shelving and put storage units in that back area because now so much of her storage has to be in that area and not in a classroom, for example, where it used to be. So she wants to organize that. She has some locking things that she has put up there and purchased, but she would like to put some shelving and some storage units on there, between $500 and $800.
Motion so we can discuss it, funds for the stage organization project up to $800.
There a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Any questions about this?
I, again, think this is something that the facilities committee could maybe look at, and if we're going to be mounting and stuff like that, if that's okay with, I don't remember who was on that committee, but if that's okay with.
You and Bree.
I was like, I don't remember that one.
So this committee is these gentlemen.
Okay, so if that's okay with you guys, I'd be,
Punt it to the
Yeah.
facilities.
Let's do that. All right.
That sounds great.
Absent objection, we'll do that. Combination
The
lock.
combination locks, we are looking to have some consistency with these locks. Right now, we have a few locks that students can rent or borrow, but they also are allowed to bring in their own locks and provide us with a key. I would like to have a consistent set of locks that we use, that we distribute, that we have a master key for. They become our locks. Every student has the same kind of lock. Every lock is accessible to us without having to find so-and-so's key that they turned in September and so-and-so's key that they turned in October. We have priced them. It's about $750 or $748 for a keyed lock. The regular locks you can buy are like $5-something, but they don't have a standardized key for them. These locks we priced out 180 of them. We priced out the blue color for the dial, and they would all be keyed with the same key, so that a master key that we would have 10 or 15 of in the building, so that we could keep them.
I agree with that one. Motion to approve.
second.
Any further discussion? I'd like
I
to hear
just
from
want to
our-
make sure that's legal. I mean, just,
I'd like to hear from our
I assume it is,
resident security
okay.
expert on this. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea. It's nothing more than a stolen notebook.
And I was thinking the iPad or whatever it is, netbook, but
That's
notebook's
true.
good too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not
How much trouble do we
Or a
have?
notebook, because your homework's in it, right?
Yeah, it's the worst.
Stole my notebook.
With problems right now. with
Oh,
people
well,
lockers.
right now, there's just shenanigans that go on. I mean, kids open kids' lockers, they take lunch, they put stuff in, they take stuff out, they move a kid's netbook from one locker to another. I mean, it's gonna eliminate a whole lot of shenanigans, and people nodding their heads, they know.
With only 180, does this cover
6, 7, and
all-
8. It's only grade 6, 7, and 8. Yep, 6, 7, and 8. It would cover all 3
Kids
classes.
don't even have a locker.
Oh, really?
And the other piece is we'd have to set up a procedure where kids are renting them. They do a $5 deposit, they return the lock, and they get their $5 back.
And do we
So-
have a policy, or do we have to come up with a policy?
Or,
Yeah, we'll have to come out, yeah.
This
Like a
whole thing?
rental policy.
Or just the policy, yeah, that says you're renting this or whatever. I assume that we'll have to.
You can
come-
just make a procedure, and
Okay.
you don't need a policy for
Okay,
that, that's
good.
fine.
I'm just wondering.
any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 650.
Thank you. Thank you. So the lighting for the stage, again, this is that overview that Becky Rush has put out there to say, if there is extra money in the budget and the board felt inclined to give some support toward the ongoing lighting project that they want to be doing to improve the whole lighting aspect of the stage, that certainly is something that the facilities committee could be looking at. She's working with the same company that was doing the stage curtains, and it's a lighting company, and they've given different quotes for different aspects of the project. It's a long-term project, but she just put it out there to say, if you can let them know that I'm looking at this project, and it's something that we're gonna need to be thinking about, if they had extra money now and wanted to put some money toward that, we can certainly look at beginning a first phase of it.
I would like to just table that for now.
Sure.
I'd keep that there. If that's okay.
Yeah.
With
I agree with
everyone?
that. Anyone else?
I'm happy to have the lighting quote, I mean, I'm not a lighting expert, so the lighting quote itself is something that maybe some people, facilities committee could start looking at it, and we could see where the phases would happen, based on what the recommended phases are.
For me, it's just,
Personally, I
we
like-
spent a lot of money on drama in the past couple of years, and it'd be nice to see it spread around a little
Yep.
bit. That's
Fully agree.
my opinion, but.
Personally, I like to support Mrs. Rush, but I think she just overwhelmed us with.
It's a lot. I mean,
with-
that one
with all-
quote,
yeah,
there's a ton of
I-
stuff in
you
there.
know, I would be more interested in if she had a specific for a specific amount of money, less than $5,000. But we did just spend, money on the curtains and
Yep.
things like that.
Absolutely.
The only thing, and I really like Mrs. Rush, and the reason I like her is because she participates in finding funds herself. She's not just coming to us.
Oh.
She really goes out, they do a tremendous amount of things to earn money, and I just really think she does a wonderful job. So I do like to support that. It's not just us giving money to her. She earns a lot. Her kids earn a lot of the money themselves.
They do, they work very hard.
That's
Yes,
not
they
what
do.
I said. I just said
Yeah.
that, it's
I'm just saying, I
unfortunate
like
that
to
there
support her. I
weren't
do.
No, yeah,
others
I mean,
represented.
if we had more staff doing that, it'd be great.
It really would, yeah. I think
Well, it's hard
she
to have
is
other staff
wonderful.
doing it when they're also told they can only have one fundraiser going on at a time. So, it's kind of hard
Well,
for
I
people
just
to
meant
make the money
even
that way.
pushing for, their activity.
Yeah.
More than
And there's
just-
not an amount listed for this one,
That's
so
why
it
it's
makes
ki-
it a
it's not
little
really
difficult
actionable,
to
yeah.
Well, there
decide.
were phases, I mean, if it was, if people had $15,000 they want to give, she'd be like, oh, that'd be great, but if people had $5,000 and she could start phase one, she just wanted people to be aware that this is something that we're looking at needing to do to improve the facility. I will share that with the facility committee. The Washington DC trip support, the first two charges have already been taken care of. We were able to find budget funds to cover the $799 and the $100. Those have been paid as of, well, this check will be sent tomorrow, but those are part of the manifest, I think, in there. So those are covered. The support for the 3 students, I put this on here because it was mentioned in the last meeting and there was some discussion about it. So I can totally understand either way you go, but we did just get a very generous $400 donation anonymously through Mr. Jandabar. There was a $400 donation handed to me today. So right off the top, that takes $400 off that 1101. And I already texted Ms. Rush to tell her that it was coming. So that's very exciting. Thank you to whoever those anonymous donors
Whoever that
were,
was.
please.
Thank you.
Mr. Jandabar, if you could relay that, that's definitely
I
going to be
will.
a huge benefit for those.
I just don't feel like it's the school boards or the taxpayers' place to be spending money on the DC trip. The $899, absolutely, that's our responsibility. But the rest of it, unfortunately, I don't feel like that's our money to be spending on something like that.
I totally understand. I think the reason it even comes up as being potentially shared with the school board is because of the Mara Vista trip and the fact that there's a considerable amount of Mara Vista money that is supporting the 6th grade trip. So the thought was, can they consider doing something similar? And I've mentioned it before, doing something similar for the 8th grade trip. I think that's really why anyone's even looking to bring it to the board.
I think you're comparing apples and oranges. That, to me, and that's just my personal opinion. You're comparing apples and oranges with Mara Vista and the DC trip. So, but that's
So
just
you
me.
need $701 more?
Yes.
And
What's the
if I
cutoff?
remember your email, you said it was by the 18th?
By the 19th. Yes, Saturday. All payments by 11:59 PM have to be in by Saturday.
This Saturday?
That's in 2 days from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know if, 2 guys that always help me out are out of town at least until the middle of next week. They do not want to put up with a snowstorm coming Monday. So if you don't get it tonight from us, does that mean those 3 kids don't go? What does that mean?
It means that we need to be creative about how they get funded.
So are you paying some now and the rest later?
Every kid's account is supposed to have been fully paid by Saturday. If it's not paid by Saturday, then there's the potential to incur a late fee if future payments come in, because they're trying to get people to pay up so that they can manage the rest of the funds for the trip. We have student activities money that we're putting every bit of it in there toward all of the fees that we have, and we're divvying out the
Well-
fundraised money.
So if you can figure out with Dr. Godomsky how to do the financing, I don't really want to know. I will guarantee you $301 more, but not for a week, 10 days. So you'll have to figure out how to do that. But I know I can get the $300 from the other 2 people to help out. So that leaves you $400 to figure out how to get. So
That's very generous, thank you.
and I guarantee you, probably by the end of next week, I will have the $301. So you got $400 to worry about.
Thank you, Tim, that's very nice.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It isn't coming from me, it's just.
Well, I
people
know, but, well, it's coming from your hard work, though. Well,
So
work.
if you need help with that, I can-
I can certainly let Ms. Rush know that that's the balance that we're left with, and we'll see where,
Okay.
where we need to go with that.
No, I guarantee if the 301 more,
Thank you.
so then you figure out the rest.
101, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's great, thank you. So that does it for the wish list. I
Okay.
mean, we tried to be conservative and selective, and as I said, the whole entire school got a lot of stuff that they would be looking to have put on this wish list already, and it's coming in already, so.
Did anybody keep a grand total of
I
what you
did.
said yay to?
Yeah.
So if you did, go for it.
I think we only did the cabinets and the stage mats and the locks were the only ones that were for sure.
Well,
Well, other than the reading program.
yeah, well, the top two also, the two, those were the,
Yeah, for-
and
Pull out the calculator.
I believe it comes out to $100,948.
So 101,000.
yeah, and then I just want to make sure, because if I wrote down the right things, we have 188,000 left in regular ed, 160 in,
541, 551.
550.
but that does not include Co-Brown, correct? That, I took Co-Brown out of that, that's why I wanted, that's what I was,
Oh,
because we have always said that we would not spend,
well, so then you got to take out insurance too, because that's the other one. But I'm not interested in spending $300,000-400,000.
no, me either, but I wanted to make sure. But when you say salary and insurance, I looked at the high school special ed that she had said that we saved, and the 111 for high school and special ed, and then the 34 for high school transportation, and I was taking that out. So that's 145 minus whatever you just said, the 5 whatever.
551.
What was I gonna say? But what are you saying for salary and insurance? That doesn't, that's not up here in the regular, that's not in the Northwood school, the 188, the 160, and the 59.
This year, we're saving around 121,000 in insurance.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't, oh, I see what you're saying. Right, the 4% versus the 12%.
Exactly, yes.
Gotcha, okay, sorry.
Yeah, so there's incredible savings here and there, but I'm personally not,
No, I'm not looking
Yeah.
at spending all of that either, but
Okay,
I'm
good.
looking for how much we have spent, is what I'm saying.
101.
Okay, are we done with the wish list?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that's not on the list that you want to bring up?
I think if, as long as we can revisit the other things still on here and get the follow-up, then I think we're gonna be,
Okay, so you're all done, and now it's time for you.
I know.
Principal's report.
Keith, is there anything else we need Marjorie for?
I don't believe so. Does anybody have any reason for Marjorie being here, other than enjoy your company?
She needs to stay at least another hour.
I think you're free to go then.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you. So, the principal's report, it's not that long, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. The 8th grade math placement test for Co-Brown, I know we've talked a lot about transition to Co-Brown and our kids, whether they are or aren't ready. I wanted to share this good news that we got, that the test was given on the 18th. We just got the results, and 3 of the top 4 scores for the math placement test were Northwood students. Out of all the kids that took the test to place into Co-Brown, 3 of the top 4 were Northwood students, which I think is tremendously awesome for our kids. I know the math program has had a lot of hard hits, and a lot of things have happened with people questioning the integrity of the program and all that, but I'm just really proud of this year and the fact that we were able to accomplish this with a brand-new math teacher and a brand-new math program, not the Go Math, but the Pearson program. So I'm just very hopeful, and I sat in a meeting with the math teacher and the Co-Brown math teacher to talk about the scores and the tests and the results, and knowing what that teacher knows now about the Co-Brown process, about the test, about the items, about how they're looked at, what the score means, there's definitely modifications she's going to make to the approach for the coming year. So it's really great information, and it's some forward thinking to be able to make sure our kids are as prepared as possible to transition to Co-Brown. So kudos to Ms. Fiden and all the work that she's done and the work that she will continue to do to get our kids ready for that high school experience.
So can I just ask a question?
Yes.
That was the 8th grade, but is the 7th grade Clemens? Is that-
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I get them all confused because there's so many new ones. Has Miss Clemens been included in that at all?
She was in the
Because-
meeting.
Okay, good.
She was. The four of us sat together. It was those two math teachers and Mr. Daigle and myself.
Okay.
So yes,
Good.
they are going to work together, and she's already thinking about things because there were topics talked about. So she's already thinking about things that she's going to incorporate through the Go Math that are going to feed in more strongly to the 8th grade experience. That's going to feed in more strongly to the Co-Brown experience. So it's working. I mean, there's definitely some communication channels that were opened up, and people are listening and hearing things and moving our math kids forward, which is awesome. It was such great news. I thought that was such a great thing to hear. Read Across America Week. You're the math guy. You've been talking about the math program since I walked in here. That's great news. It's great news.
Awesome, good job.
Read Across America Week was fantastic. A lot of the people are here. I know I've talked about it before. Huge kudos to the Literacy Committee. All these ladies, a lot of these ladies are here. Miss Turco, Miss Oxnard, Miss Mantell, Miss Cronin, Miss Fredette, Miss Smith, Miss Cunningham, Miss Harvey, and Miss Moore. Tons of great experiences that the kids had. We have a lot of great pictures that we're about to put on the website. Mr. Robert's been out a couple days, so lots of people came in costumes. Lots of people celebrated their favorite author and their favorite character. And we had Thing 1 and Thing 2 and Dr. Seuss running around the building. It was just awesome. It was awesome. We're going to do more with it. We're taking feedback, and you guys did a fantastic job planning it. It went really, really well. It went really well, so thank you guys. We had an author here today. We had an author here, which also went awesome. David Ira Rottenberg is an author of Gwendolyn the Pig. He presented today, and the kids loved it. It was K to 4. We had Joy of Dance performing this dance to the book. It was great. It was really, really great. We're going to try to do that more. We're going to see if we can't bring some of those experiences to kids, to see a real live author in front of them talking about the book that he wrote. Fantastic. Artists in residence, we're working that out. We've got a date, we've got a guy, we've got a project, and we're going to move forward. So that's going to be spent May 2nd to May 6th. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to focus on grades 7 and 8. We looked at what he needs for our target audience and what he needs with a working group, and we're going to modify the schedule during that week. So every kid in the 7th and 8th gets that enrichment experience. Every student is going to have 2 periods that they're going to work with this artist to create this product that we are going to, with approval, place in the foyer above the doorways, a glass-oriented project, which is going to be beautiful, I think. The DC trip update, the performing arts update, the dinner theaters next week. Hopefully you guys bought tickets March 22nd and March 23rd. Dinner theaters the 22nd, dessert theaters the 23rd. They're working their tails off for this performance. It's going to be awesome as usual. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully you'll be coming. Winter Sports Awards was held last night. Recognized 2 championship teams. It's awesome. Girls soccer, girls basketball. They're looking forward to spring already to see what they can do with girls softball. It was great. Fantastic. The banners are going up. They're beautiful. Information on a new archery unit for PE class that Mr. White is looking to do. This is something he's looking to do in April and or May, but he wanted to give the information out to you all so you could consider it. He is trained, he is certified in that area, and he wants to bring that experience to our students. So you can think about that, ask questions. If you want him to come in to talk to you specifically, to show you equipment, to...
Do we have to consider this?
I'm not sure if you do. He's just giving you information because I
think it's
figured you'd want to
wonderful,
know
I don't
before...
believe you do.
Uh-huh,
I don't
no?
believe you.
Okay, I
Before
think it's
bows and
great.
arrows started flying in
My
the
kids are
gym,
gonna love
that
it.
you would know. Trying to be a
Take
little
it away.
proactive here.
Just make sure nobody gets hurt.
So,
Take it away.
if you had anything that you want to bring to my attention about it, please do. If not, we're going to go forward with it because he's super excited about it, and it's a great new experience for these students
He
and
might get him to hit the target if he puts pictures of the teachers. No, I'm just kidding.
or the principal. Yeah, we talked
I'm
about that.
kidding. I'm totally kidding.
For a price, I've got some black and white glossies in my bag that I can certainly. All right. The wish list, building and grounds is on there, and then technology. So with that, oh, well, one more thing, one more great news that's not in there. Jump rope for heart just happened this week. Miss Tyler, the new gym teacher, ran the jump rope for heart. Last year, the total didn't exceed $4,000. This year, the grand total, drum roll please, $5,647.63. Fantastic. It was tremendous. It was great. $5,600. Awesome. Yeah, so that just came through. So I'm sharing that. That's not in the report, but that's a huge total, and that's awesome. Jump rope for heart.
Awesome.
Well, Karen had asked for opportunities as well as accomplishments. What opportunities are we looking at that we can improve on this month?
Opportunities for students?
Or the school, students' education, any of it.
Well, the two biggest opportunities are the math program and the reading program. I mean, right now, those are two big opportunities that we're focused on in terms of being able to offer something different and better than what we offer now.
Can I go back to the wish list again? Sorry, because I was just sitting here thinking. I just want to make sure, is there any equipment or anything in the school that wasn't part of the wish list that might need repairs or might need new or something like that, or anything?
In terms of facilities, or in terms of like gym equipment, or?
Teacher's room, anything like that, those types of things, I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Is there anything, I was, there was something that came to the PTA and I said, there's
Oh, that's already
money in
been
the budget.
purchased.
Right, but there was, I said there's money in the budget. That's not something I feel like the PTA should have to do unless there wasn't money in the budget. So I'm just wondering if there's that type of stuff that needs to be purchased now when we do have the money. It would just be
Like
something.
that cutter thing you're talking about that came to PTA, that
Yeah,
equipment, that was,
whatever it
yeah,
was.
and I said, that's something we can cover, that's equipment, we can cover that. We bought equipment for the music room, we bought equipment for the special ed offices, we bought equipment
I just want to
for-
make sure that it's out there and that right now is the time that if this stuff needs to be done,
Yep.
that it's brought forward.
We did buy some new whiteboards for a couple of classrooms.
Yeah.
We do have a faculty meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
So I can make a note, and these folks will remind me that I can put it out for the teachers that are here tomorrow to say if there's any final equipment needs. There was a request that came through for a listening center for fifth grade, and that was already purchased.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I just
some
want
of those
that-
have come through and have already been supported, so.
Okay. Okay.
So some of the other things I'd be interested in looking at is maybe some of the items that we had budgeted for next year that we aren't getting because of the default budget, and see if we can use this year's money for durable
Yeah,
equipment type stuff.
We've done a cursory look at next year's budget. Things like kitchen, we're not looking at kitchen right now because we're not sure what's going to happen with the whole kitchen program. So that's something that we were looking at, what equipment do they need, but that's not something that we're doing right now.
Any like maintenance and stuff that we had in there, just try to forward think if we can spend some of this money to take care of it now, that might be a
Right.
good idea.
Right. And truthfully.
Like we were talking about with the technology, for
Yes,
instance, the
yes.
software licensing.
Yeah.
Remember at one point we were talking about getting that done.
Whatever
Earlier.
happened with the drainage and stuff on the ball fields?
I don't remember
What did we ever do with that? The drainage and all that on the ball field? Did we?
They redid some of it.
It's complete? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they were paying $9,000 over a certain year period, the NTSB.
I thought we were putting some money into that, though.
Right,
I thought
so too.
we had agreed to put some money into that.
I know it's
No?
complete.
Okay.
There's no drainage issues
Yeah, there
now.
was quite a bit of work done last year.
Yeah, okay, it was last
Yeah.
year.
No, I
I mean,
agree.
is there anything, there was something brought up too about the woods in the back and needing to be bush hogged and stuff like that. I don't know if that's still an issue. These are the type of things that, I'm not looking at spending all of the money, but if these are things that need to get done, there's money there right now that we're not going to have to get this stuff done. So those are the type of things that we should be looking at too, is like if that needs to be bush hogged and, I don't know if that's something we can do before July 1. I don't know when you do bush hogging or
I don't
pushing back,
know.
whatever. I have no idea, but
Anytime before it snows on Monday.
Or after.
get on that, Bob.
So,
But-
truthfully, it hasn't been a long time since the default budget was established that's our
Right.
budget. So, our priorities over the last 7 days have been the math and the reading, and we did a cursory kind of look through the budget to say, are there any other things? We will do that again, now that we know that those things are satisfied, we will do that again. I've been in conversation with Tom, so we can look at that stuff. We didn't put a lot of things in next year's budget that were, like the sign. That was one of the big things that we were gonna put in next year's budget, the $20,000 for the sign, but that was voted down. So that's one of those things that people still keep talking about. The sign looks awful. I know it does. We're trying to fix it. We put it in to consider a new sign, and it was a decision at the time that wasn't where our money was gonna go. That's something that has come up. If people wanted to revisit that, we can certainly look to revisit that.
Speaking of the sign, when the repairs are scheduled?
Yeah, we're waiting for them to come out. They were supposed to have come out within 2 weeks of the last meeting, which would make that tonight.
Give them a call.
Were they yesterday?
They were out yesterday or the day before, but I don't know what they clearly is not fixed, but
Yeah.
they were here. The truck was in the parking lot and they were working on the sign, but I don't know.
I mean, the other thing is like and I don't know if this is a town and a school thing, the getting out of the parking lot over by the fire station. You bottom out every time and then it's awful getting out of there. So I don't know if that's a town and a school thing or.
That's town or ours? That property area where that bottom out spot is?
I guess I don't know what you're talking
By the
about.
fire, as you're exiting onto Route 4 by the fire station, there's a big,
I never bought them out.
You can truck.
maybe you're going too fast.
The buses have,
I mean, that's
Issues.
I guess I'll look at it. It depends on where it is.
It's
It's whether it's on the fire department property or whether it's on the school property. I don't know. I'll have to look. I'll look on
Helps
my
with
way
drainage,
out.
though. The water goes right down.
Right to the ball fields.
Yeah, right. We fixed that.
That's awesome.
But these are just things that, thinking of a wish list that I was just thinking of.
So one thing that we're still looking at is one of the technology items is professional development is managed by paper right now and has been. All the professional development that teachers do, all the recertification, all the everything, it's all paper. And March 15th was a deadline that many of us had to meet for some recertification. The paperwork shuffle, it's a nightmare. It's an archaic system. It really is a nightmare. And those that are tech savvy, if you looked at the system that we have, you would wonder why we still have it. So we have a bid for it. We have a price for it, a quote for it, for a whole new system that the technology committee has recommended. That is something that I think the total was $3,700. I didn't put it forward yet because we put a bunch of tech stuff already through, and I was waiting for the next financials to see if we still had wiggle room with being able to support it right now. But that is something that would overhaul that whole system for us, that would affect all the faculty and staff that are tired of pushing the paper. The implementation is $2,500 because they have to customize the whole setup to be able to match our forms and our requirements that we have for forms. So if they're able to do that, then it's $1,200 a year to maintain. But that would potentially offset maybe even the work needed of the professional development coordinators on the support staff and on the regular staff, because they wouldn't have to do nearly the work that they're doing. So we could still have somebody, but pay them less. So some of that money may end up coming back to us through that stipend.
So I guess, for me, I would like to see I hate to call it a wish list, but a different needed, things that are needed or whatever list. Not different, but like an updated one or whatever, maybe for the next meeting. And again, I'm not looking at spending all of the money that we have by any means. But if there are things that need to be taken care of,
Especially things I can offset next year.
right.
I mean, that'd be my priority.
And if we don't ask, then they're gonna say, well, we were never asked.
I know that Karen Brigger's probably sitting at home turning over in her chair, because one of the things that really bothered her was that, she asked that we get one list. And all of a sudden, this is gone, this is just morphed into a list for everything under the sun. So I'm telling you, I just think that's a really wrong way to go. We asked for a list, we got a list. I can't imagine another list and another list and another list, but that's up to you guys, but, that's what
My only
happened
response
last
to that
year.
is, we've had the reality of, 7 days
Yes.
since voting to know. So I don't expect that the list is gonna be perfect in a week, but.
I was, if anything, disappointed in that, other than the first two items, none of the rest of it is educational, nor is it, except for one item, safety. I am more than willing to spend money to further the education of our students in this town, and I certainly want our students to be in a safe environment. We're going crazy here. That's my opinion.
I agree with you on that point, for sure.
Then we're going crazy.
No, it'd be nice to see more education.
Yeah, I was wondering,
Yeah,
there's nothing for the library in here, there's nothing, I don't know.
again, I will say, we just spent thousands of dollars from the last financials to this financial set on educational stuff for a ton of classrooms in here. So I didn't generate that list of all those things that came through because the POs come through to you, but there's a ton of stuff, new anthologies, new reading materials, new special ed, intervention materials were already purchased, new equipment for the music room, new instruments were purchased, new music was purchased, all of that stuff, there's a ton of stuff that was purchased, and if you want that list actually generated so you could actually see it out, we could
No,
certainly
it's all
develop
in
that.
there. I'm not, I don't think we're, Bree didn't look through those.
Oh, no, I know,
She
but
looked through those and
I'm
everything,
trying to
but-
inform you that
yeah.
a lot of that stuff has been purchased since the last financial set to
They're saying
this
it just didn't make
financial
it
set.
onto the wish list because it was already.
It was, yeah, we were able to, yeah, we spent down just about every supply line to $50 or less, so.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else for Wendy?
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the enrollment report.
So the enrollment report is in there on page 53, 54, 55. If you have any questions or comments, glad to take it. I also brought in the forms for our 8th graders going to 9th grade for Co-Brown, so I'll give those to Keith to.
Just glad
over
it's
an
not next
autograph.
week.
So those are
Luckily I can sign
ready
these
as well.
fast. Any questions about enrollment?
No, excuse me, yes. So, I know I emailed about 2 particular individuals, and I see a letter regarding one of them. Is the other one out of our system now and being paid for by Stratford, the high school?
Trying to remember which one you had. We had a couple of them. We had 2 that you mentioned, and I believe we had 2 or 3 others that we were tracking down. So we've looked into all of those, and there's one other one that is actually a parent request for tonight that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes.
So the one that's a request has a brother or a sister in high school. Is that being paid for by Stratford now?
That one's been moved.
Thank you.
Okay. Floor is yours for
All
superintendent's
right.
report.
Well, I'll start off on, let's see, page 56. You've got the start of a personnel report, a resignation of Greg Helton.
Oh,
Go ahead,
second,
Barb.
or so moved.
We have to accept the
resignation.
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 Keith, I think these were,
Yep,
I handed those out. so
nobody seconded yet.
Second.
Any comment?
you've got- I think I handed those out.
You did, and I put them somewhere underneath it.
Here's one of them.
All in favor?
Aye.
In addition to that, I handed out another personnel report. We've got for 4th grade teacher, Joanne Alberg. We were fortunate when we posted that position to have actually a couple of very nice finalists, very impressive, and Joanne certainly was one of those. I think she'll do a very nice job at coming in and finishing off the year in grade 4. And that salary is bachelor's, step 0, and that's prorated from when she comes into the end of the school year.
So moved.
Second. So this is just till the end of the year?
Correct. This position, when we were interviewing for it, because of the time of the year, we were very upfront with all of the candidates, letting them know that it is a teaching position, it is a position that's in our budget. However, due to the time of the year, it is a from now to the end of the school year position. It's going to be posted. At that point in time, if the person is in the position, does a terrific job and wants to apply, they're more than welcome to do that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
And the other one I have is William Ballou as part-time custodian.
So moved.
So, another question here is we're still getting a lot of custodian turnover. Is there any We do about this.
Did we discuss that in non-public?
Well, we are talking about it and having a lot of conversations, and a lot of it has to do with the pay, and we've had at least one or two, I think, come in, work for a while, and then find jobs that are paying more. So, I mean, I can't fault them for that.
And there's more information that can be shared, but they have had very positive informal exit interviews with me when I've talked to them. So a lot of it is things beyond people's control and other things unrelated to school.
Can I just ask a question on the previous one? Should we have a resignation also for her, Joanne?
She didn't do a formal letter, but technically that
Resignation?
would need to happen.
She's
because
a neck tutor right now.
Oh, I see.
So that means we have a neck tutor position open.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. We'll bring that as a formal, we probably should have done it the other way around, but,
I just was wondering, but, okay.
yeah, we
I
haven't
just-
brought that, but
Okay.
that is correct.
We've spent the last 2 weeks with some intense interviewing, and the process has been so active and so busy that a lot of it came down to today, to be able to have as much information as we possibly could with reference checks and talking to people and having people come in and teaching lessons and all of that. So we were
And-
able to come to the
Yes, I know, I've
conclusion
heard.
today.
And my
My son
plan
gives
is
me an
to
update.
have at least a couple of days of overlap, so the transition for the kids will be a lot smoother, so I think we can swing that.
We're really, really excited about this transition.
All right, so back to Mr. Ballouz. Ballou? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Is page 57, is that his resume or something? Why are we having trouble with, I see your page is worse than mine.
I can read that, I can't now.
That's the
Greg
resignation.
Helton's resignation,
That's
that's
the
the one you're
resignation.
looking
Well, I
at.
understand, but why are we having, I have several pages like this, and I'm wondering what happened.
Why are yours yellow?
Because I printed it off on yellow paper.
Mine came out, well.
I have it on my computer, it's
I can't read
barely
that
legible,
either.
but,
I mean, you can sort of tell. It says my last day is.
yeah, it was scanned.
You can, yeah, you
see
could
what it
read
is.
it. I mean, I can read it on here much better than,
I think it was.
Why is it
I think-
black?
I think
He
it was
wrote
a
it on
yellow piece of paper
piece of
when we,
paper.
it was a yellow piece of paper when we copied
He
it.
wrote it on
so-
a yellow piece of paper.
Camouflage sometimes, yellow. Anyway, all in favor of William?
I,
Let's move on. Any opposed? No. 5-0. Okay.
Okay, the parent request I handed out to you, it was for a request for an eighth
Motion to
grade.
approve.
An eighth grade student to finish off the school year
second.
here.
Okay. Give me a second to read it.
This doesn't really cost us anything, so I don't mind.
We already paid.
There's a brother or a sister that's in Co-Brown, and they're staying in Co-Brown, so, but the other town should pay for that.
That's
As long
been
as that's
transferred.
resolved, I'm happy. But
Yeah, if it was earlier in the school year, I might make a recommendation that, you know, to make the transition, but at this point in the school year, you know, with an eighth grader,
one extra kid makes no difference.
I think it makes sense to improve it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None?
Thank you for that.
On page 58 and 59, there was a discussion at the last school board meeting about a piece of, an opinion from the School Board Association attorney, and whether that should be handled in public or non-public. So I just asked the question from the School Board Association attorney as to what should go into non-public for discussion and what shouldn't go into non-public for discussion, and if their legal opinion should be in non-public. So that's the feedback I got from that.
Okay, so I would like to address that. I'm reading from Serving on the Local School Board an overview of the legal responsibilities of school board member. I suggest that you all get a copy of that and look at it. If you want me to forward it to you, give me your email address and I will. It's by Dean Eggert, Esquire, and a whole bunch of people here from Wadley Star in Peters. And I'm reading on page, sorry, I need my old fart glasses.
What is the title of that document?
The title of this is Serving on the Local School Board, an overview of the legal responsibilities of a board member, April 8th, 2014. Wadley Star and Peters, PLLC. Since 1899. Somebody's older than I am. I'm reading on page 18, paragraph 2. The New Hampshire Supreme Court has held that the attorney-client privilege protects written legal advice. Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest versus Water Supply and Pollution Control Commission. However, New Hampshire RSA 91A:2 parentheses L, I think, and then parentheses B, does not permit a public body to read a letter from counsel and discuss its contents in a private session without the attorney at the meeting. So I'll read that again if you like. The New Hampshire Supreme Court has held that the attorney-client privilege protects written legal advice in the case Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest versus Water Supply and Pollution Control Commission. However, New Hampshire RSA 91A:2:1B does not permit a public body to read a letter from counsel and discuss its content in a private session or a non-public session without the attorney at the meeting. That is in Edinger versus Town of Madison Planning Board, etc. You can get the whole thing and read it if you want. I was at a meeting Tuesday night in Manchester at the Naki Loeb Communications School on right to know. The whole thing just tickled me to death. One of the guys there in the audience was Speaker Jasper, Speaker of the House Jasper, and several times from the audience over the course of the night he spoke up. And one of the times he says, well, you know, you guys should just do what I do. When they started talking about non-public, I walked out, which is exactly what I did several meetings ago. And I went to the nearest reporter, is what he said. So, to me, that's my attitude. So I think it's very clear. Certainly there is a client privilege with a lawyer. Want to bring in the lawyer, then you can read all you want. There is absolutely, this whole thing astounds me. There is nothing in that document that needs to be out of public view. Nothing. And that's what bothers me. But regardless of that, if you want it in public, you want it in non-public, you got to bring the lawyer in.
But what the lawyer is telling us here,
I understand. I don't think that lawyer was given the whole story, but you can read there, you can read there, and you can read this, and you can make up your own mind. I think it's pretty clear. This happened, if you remember, 2 or 3 years ago in Oyster River, and they really got into a lot of trouble cheating with the client attorney privilege, and they really got they really got in a lot of trouble.
Anything else on the subject? You good?
Yeah, this was requested by the board, and I brought it back, and the non-public that we went into had more to do with other things as well as personnel in addition to this, so.
I don't argue that, Bob. I fully understand there is a need and a place when we have to have non-public. But I'm not going to stay and listen to or read a document that should be in public in non-public. So if they want to let you do it, they can. I'm going to walk out. I think that's fair enough.
absolutely, it's fair enough. Okay, we can move on.
Bus ridership.
Bus ridership, if you look on page 60 and 61, you have your transportation survey. What they tried to do is pick a variety of dates there and simply count the numbers and you can see where it ended up.
Now, is this relatively easy for them to get a hold of every once in a while, or is this a burden?
No, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Okay. It's great information. I like seeing it, so.
Yeah, we can do it a few different times of the year. Obviously, it's going to vary a little bit depending on the sports seasons and those types of things,
I would
but
expect it to, yeah.
certainly good information.
I was a little upset that she asked us to dismiss the elementary school 5 minutes earlier. That, to me, is 5 minutes of education, and that our teachers need.
Well, I took that as meaning, like, when we're looking at our schedule for next year.
That's not how I took it. I took it as for this year.
Wasn't how I took it either,
I don't think.
How did you take it?
the way you did.
It's obviously not happening this year.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took offense to that,
That
you
was
know.
a huge discussion, and
Yeah.
here, it was a huge discussion with the teachers and negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a huge discussion, and I think we bent over backwards for,
And I think
personally.
that's the plan for next year, and that should make everybody happier.
Right, and we
I
can
mean,
look
we'll
at it
shift-
next
shift-
year, but
right.
there's no way that
no.
I would agree or even ask to have the kids dismissed 5 minutes earlier. If there's something that she needs to look at in her roots to make changes, to make sure that she gets to Co-Brown, that's fine, but I was actually a little mad that she
Yeah, I think the
asked that.
adjustments that have already been made with the bus, with the addition of the
Crossing guard,
bus,
too.
with the
The
crossing
crossing
guard,
guard
I
should
mean,
help,
there have
right?
been a number of things that have, we've attempted to get it out. I mean, it's tight.
Absolutely, I mean, you're working with K through 8 kids. I mean, you're working with kids.
So we're on it every single afternoon. Miss Cremoni is out there like a drill sergeant. We leave the bus yard at 2:30 every day.
2:29 some
We,
days.
we dismiss K through 2 in advance of the older kids now, because it takes K through 2 longer. Kids that forget stuff, we tell them, get it tomorrow. You can't go back in. You can't do this, you can't do that. We are pretty adamant
not
with these
looking at
kids to
blaming
say.
anybody. I'm
No,
just
I'm
a
just,
little
we have
upset
made
that-
changes.
that
We've made
she asked
significant
that.
changes, and we are on it.
You know, I just
every
wanted that
day.
made known, that I was a little upset that she even asked that, because we have done,
Right.
we put that extra bus in because she told us, you know, it
It
was,
seems like it adds extra stress
And the
to
crossing guard,
everybody
too.
anyways.
Right,
I
and the
mean,
crossing
It shouldn't be
guard.
that much stress to get kids on the bus. So, yeah, we'll definitely look at it for next year.
Yeah.
to
Oh,
make
yeah,
adjustments.
I think we have the flexibility next year that we don't have this year.
Right.
So, I mean, it's certainly something we should look into. Anything else for superintendent?
That's all I have. You want me to move right into 8th grade graduation date?
I'm taking a 2-minute break.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna suggest
Yeah.
something. Let's take 5 minutes.
For the
All
minute.
right, we'll come back at 9:05. All right, 8th grade graduation.
8th grade graduation, we've had some requests to set the graduation date early, so people can plan. Always a moving target, you know, we try to set it as early as we can, and, you know, hopefully we're out of the woods, but that's, may not be the case. So, you know, just want your feedback on what you'd like to do. We're looking at, right now, we have I believe the 15th of June is still our last
Half day.
half-day. We were talking about a graduation on that Friday. We've got, now, we need 180 days for all of our students. We still could have informal days on that Monday and Tuesday and half-day. However, I'm not really comfortable if we push it another day, if we have a snow day, you know, then you're really pushing the envelope. We had
You're going to
talked
have two
about,
Monday and Tuesday.
what's that?
You're going to have two snow days, Monday and Tuesday.
That would make it even worse.
bite your tongue.
So which day is the last day of school right now?
That would
Big
make it
storm
even
coming.
even worse. The 15th
I
is of
thought I was
June.
going out to sea.
And that's a half day, the 15th is a half day.
Yeah.
It's a model, and the model's coming this way.
So if it gets pushed to Friday, though, and you wanna,
So,
Big snow.
we could set it on that Friday, the 10th, which means there's at least 3 days after that. Now, Wendy brought up a good point. You've got a trip to Washington DC, which certainly could be utilized for 2 days for the 8th grade.
That's a
Okay.
Saturday and Sunday, because it's a 4-day trip,
can
Thursday,
do that.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Because it's education.
2 days of school?
Yeah, the trip is 4 days long,
What are you smoking?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I think that you could utilize
They're gonna have 12 hours a
some of
day.
that.
of educational experience.
So I guess what I would recommend, and I know people want to set this as early as possible, I get that. But I think the next meeting is probably the prudent thing to do. I mean, especially with storms coming
I
in.
don't care when it is.
If it was a situation where our last day of school was on a Friday and we had to kick it to a Monday, I wouldn't be concerned about that. But since we've already got 3 days that following week, I think we're really pushing the envelope if we try to get it on a Friday. So I know that that's the best for parents and people coming in to have it on a Friday so they can have their events. But it makes me a little uncomfortable to do that. So I guess I'm recommending that we wait till the next meeting. They'll still have, 6, 8, 9 weeks before the end of the school year to schedule it. So if that's all right, we'll put that on the agenda for next time.
Sounds good to me.
Tuesday is supposed to be mostly sunny.
Yeah.
35.
Monday's going to be fine.
I had Leland, North Carolina, and I was like, what are you talking about? It's going to be 58 and 62.
Is there any other new business anyone wants to bring up? No? There's a couple things I want to do. These are kind of just things I've been thinking about for the past year, as far as just procedures for school board meetings. So we all just start off on the right foot and are doing the right thing. I had some ideas that I want to run by as to how we could run the meetings, and you can tell me to go pound sand if you don't like them, but I'm hoping they help. So what I'll do is I'll just grab all three of them, then we could vote on them independently if you want. One thing is, I notice a lot of times a lot of us make requests to administration or to Wendy about documents or getting test scores or things like that. I'd like really to formalize that a little bit and have all the requests come from the board. So whether it's a motion being seconded or something like that and voted on, just so it's very clear, gets into the minutes and stuff, that this is what we asked for or didn't ask for. If an individual wants to make a request, they're perfectly free to do that, and I think the superintendent should take that into account just as he would any individual making a request. But ones that come from the board obviously would carry more weight. So I guess that's just a request from us that we do things through the board one way or another. The other thing is with all these, a lot of times we are all on the same page about something and it's obvious. For example, a lot of these requests are going to end up like that. We're all on the same page and it's obvious. So instead of having to go through a motion, second, vote, I'd like to use more, and we've done this a little bit tonight informally, but a general consensus protocol, whereas the acting chair would say, absent objection, the board would request test scores, or anything, like any of these motions, right? Any member who's present who, A, doesn't agree, or B, wants to have a discussion, or wants to have a vote, all you just say is, let's have a vote, or let's talk, or I object, whatever, and then, boom, fine, we're gone. We don't have consensus, we'll just do the regular
There's
procedures.
quite a little that legally has to have a motion and a vote.
What's that?
There's an awful lot that has to have a legal motion and a vote.
If we legally need one, sure. I don't think all the stuff that we do legally needs to
There's a
have
time or
vote.
two when we take a straw poll, and that's fine,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, we need to be very specific on an awful lot of the stuff, 98% of the stuff that we do, and there has to be a vote. I think we're pretty good. There's a case going through the courts right now where one school district doesn't like to, so they'll say the vote is 3-2, but they don't say who's voting what, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see a lot of changes in the next couple of years. But anyway, I mean, so if you're saying that if I'm uncomfortable, I could say something,
Yeah.
then that's fine.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
And
there's
just,
an awful lot of things that just need our vote.
Yeah.
That's what we were hired
The
to
way,
do.
the way I was thinking of this working as was the chair would say something along the lines of, absent objection, the board would ask that, blah, whatever, and that would be equivalent to a seconded motion that is unanimously yes. And if anyone wants to
I
object
guess
to
I'll have
that,
to wait and see it till it happens, Keith, because.
we've done it a couple times tonight, I think.
Yeah, there's a couple of times when little things don't matter, but
Yeah.
anything to deal with money and
Oh, yeah.
Stuff
No,
like that.
My intention was for the more little things, the things
Okay.
that aren't, yeah. But of course, if you see me doing it, you don't like it, just object, and we'll go through the full motion. I
I'm not
have no problem.
bashful.
I have no problem with that. Also, if you have some problem with the way I'm running the meeting at all, absolutely object and tell me, and I don't mind if you guys overvote me to do something differently if I don't like it. The other thing I was trying to, you saw that maybe tonight, was to try to limit our discussions to business, to motions, right? So let's have the motion, let's have the second motion, and then we have a focus for our discussion, so that we're not wandering all over the place when we're having our discussions. So that's why, I mean, I've already done that a couple times, like, let's do the motion, let's stick to the motion. If you want to have a discussion, great, we can make a motion to have a discussion. I have no problem with that. But I'd really like to, of course, I was thinking about this back when Dave was on the board too. I'm sure he's watching on the video, Dave, but, you know, just try to keep things focused on the business of the school. So I don't know if this is something that, you know, if you guys want to vote on these and say this is the way we'll do it this year, that's fine.
I don't think we need to vote. I think we can
Absent
try it.
objection, you know, if no one has an objection to it, we'll go for it. All right. And I'm absolutely open to any other ideas people have for streamlining the meetings. I
Keep
mean,
us focused, that's it.
Our time is very valuable to all of us, so, yeah.
I just have a couple of new things. I was just looking through the draft, the Northwood school responsibilities, and I wouldn't expect it from this right now because we have 2 new members, but it's in March. But setting board goals and the long-range planning, I think we have 3 weeks between now and our next board meeting. So it would be really nice if we could all think about what our goals, you know, short-term, long-term goals, and long-range planning, that type of stuff, for the next board meeting, and maybe if we could put that on the agenda, Bob, if that's okay. I don't know how much is on the agenda,
Goal
but
setting.
it is,
We'll certainly get it on there within a couple agendas anyway. I'll look
Okay.
and see I've got to see what else is on the agenda for next time. We'll make sure you have it on there.
I mean, I don't think we ever followed up our goals last year either.
I think that's very important.
well, and I think asking the SAU to, I mean, I know I'm still fairly new at this and everything, and maybe Tim could be a little bit better at it, but, I mean, to me, the goal of the board shouldn't just be, you know, making the budget and passing the budget. To me, that's, you know, part of what we do, but some other long-term goals and things like that. You know, for me, one of them would be to increase or the communication with the teaching staff and the professionals in this building, and making them feel more comfortable. I think it's great, the number of professionals that I've seen come to the last few meetings. I think that's wonderful, compared to, you know, 6 months ago, there were none sitting in the audience.
That's why you and I are on the communication committee.
There we go.
Oh,
But, you
yeah.
know, setting goals like that and doing those types of
Yeah,
things.
that's true. Another thing I was thinking about was maybe we should have, ask Wendy if we can put in a school board column in the Laker that goes out to just tell you what we've been doing.
Sure, that'd be
Stuff
awesome.
like that, you know, to try to make a little, or
So just,
or
you
Facebook
know.
page like Bangor's Police Department one, right?
So, yeah, I guess over the next couple of meetings or whatever, we'll just try and set some goals, long-term, short-term, you know,
Yeah.
that type of stuff, and go from there.
Any other new business?
Well, in that vein, though, one of the things that we don't do, we haven't ever done, well, a couple of times over 5 years, maybe. I think this board should consider meeting 2 or 3 times a year with just the 5 of us. It is a remarkable difference when you don't have a bunch of other people involved. It would have to some small degree be public, but they wouldn't be able to say anything. We recently at the joint board had a meeting where it was just joint board members. The discussion was remarkably different than any discussion we've ever had when SAU people are there, or teachers are there, or principals are there. It's something that I think we should consider doing. I think.
When did you have that meeting?
I was going to say, was I not there? But that was
Yeah.
non-public.
Yeah, I believe that was a non-public
Yes, but I'm
session.
just saying, when you have a meeting when no one else is there, things come out a little differently, a little better. And it's something, and I could sit here and make a list, and I considered that before I came tonight, and I said I decided I didn't want to. But there are many, many things that we need to discuss as a board that we haven't been doing in the past, that we should be doing in the future. We need to look at, this is one really good document. There's a lot of RSAs about what we should be doing and shouldn't do. You know, and I don't think the board realizes the extent of the power that they have and are not using to get what we want, which in my opinion should be the best possible education for the money that we can for our students. And I just don't see that we're doing that, you know, et cetera. You know, and that's one way I think that we could start off in a good way, is to just have a meeting of the five of us to discuss things. Some of it would have to be in non-public, I'm sure. You know, and go from there. It just a suggestion I would have as to how to get everybody's idea quietly, without a bunch of harangue about, you know, what do they think, where do they think we are, and where do they think we should go, and how do we get there? You know, and just that kind of a discussion.
I don't disagree with the concept at all. I just don't want it a bashing session either.
It's not
I-
coffee
you know,
shop talk, it's business.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I don't think any formal vote should be taken or anything, because I look to the
No, it's just that
professionals
can't
as,
have
you
votes.
know,
No, this is
as
just
my.
discussion.
Well, I mean, it would still have to be, the public part would still have to be public, it'd still be announced,
Right,
we'd have to
no,
post
but
it and all that.
even
but-
when you come out of public, I just don't think there should be votes taken, because I think that the administration, they're the ones that we pay for their expertise in the places that they're in, and I don't always feel comfortable making a decision or taking a vote without somewhat of an opinion from them.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about any votes
Okay.
whatsoever. I had no interest
So I
in
agree with the
votes.
concept of it.
Just a discussion on what we each view the issues are, front and center at this school, what they are, how we're going to address them, what our goals are. That's a good time to have a discussion on our goals and how we're going to get there. I just don't think the board appreciates the fact that in the end, when all is said and done, not even a part-time janitor in this school is hired without our approval. Not one penny can be spent without our approval. It's the board's, that's what the board is here. We're hired, we're elected to do a job. We're paid a small amount of money to do that job, and I think we should do it. You know, and really get on board with each other, and just, I don't want to bash anybody. I have no desire to bash anybody. I just, you know, I want to see, I've got 2 more years on this board, and I'd like to see some improvement in the quality of education to our students.
Fair enough. So would that be something people would be interested in doing as an extra meeting, like, so we can still do our business? our
I mean,
normal
this is a
business
good
in the
time where
regular
we have
meetings?
3 weeks between meetings. We could pick another Thursday.
Well, I was going to suggest that if you're going to have those conversations, that it would be probably good to have before you do your goal setting.
Right. That's what I was thinking too.
If you want to have an open dialogue and a conversation and really kind of pick a direction on where you're going, that might be a good piece to do that.
Yeah.
I want to, if you're talking in generic terms of goal setting, then that should be a public meeting. If it's concerning staff, then it should be a non-public meeting.
Well, I agree with that, and I think some of it would have to be, some of it could be in public. But I'm just saying,
Maybe just not.
nobody gets a say, just
Not
the
having a
5 of
strict
us.
agenda.
It's just
You know,
between the
just-
5 of us. If they want to sit there and listen, that's fine.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there's certainly, if we get into personnel or any issues like that, we would have to go into non-public, and I could see that might happen, you know, and such. But just kind of a clearing of the minds and taking a look at where we want to go. It's just,
So are you up for scheduling that now?
I am, personally.
Okay. So if we took 2 weeks from tonight, that'd be the 31st. That's the bonus Thursday, which we usually get off. Which we would not get off if we did this. And then the following week, we would have the April 7th meeting. 31st work for people for doing something like that?
Fine
I
with
assume
me.
we're going to have like an agendaless meeting, kind of free form, or,
I'm thinking free form, but I think we should each come in with what we think. We're 5 different personalities, and each of us have, and I know we have 2 new school board members, but I'm sure they already have some thoughts from all of the information out there as to what we should be looking at. And I think the whole meeting should really be, what is it going to take to improve the school, that's not just all about money? How are we going to support Mrs. Desprez and all of her staff, et cetera, and, just everybody come in with a list of things that they feel is a priority, and each of us get a chance to go over those.
I'm with you. So the 31st, 6:30 work? Can we get that posted, Bob? Is there enough time to do that?
Good, thank you.
So 6:30, I'll post it on the 31st. I'll post it for here. I'll post it as a, what do you want me to label it? Goals
Work
work
session.
session?
Yes.
Goals work session?
Yep.
And I assume you're going to have minutes as well.
Yes, we will need you to be here.
Then you can work? Good. Yeah, no, I'd like minutes. I like minutes.
And yeah, I mean, it will be structured as the parts that are public will be public, but we're not going to have any public commentary, and we'll probably just have us talking for the most part.
So I have 2 more things. Is this one you want me to bring them up?
Sure.
One is I asked Mrs. Desprez about our telephone policy. I know what our telephone policy is. I don't feel that there's any consistency through the school, 37 teachers and however many people we have, of a school telephone policy. And I just want to bring that out. I had a before the election, ex-school board member talked to me about it, quite upset, had some particulars that I don't want to bring out. I just would like to see, I just want to bring up the phone policy again.
For students, the student cell phone
Yes,
use
student
policy?
telephone
Okay.
policy.
All right.
Student telephone
Confused on where
policy,
you're
which
going.
is, if you're caught once, you're asked to put it away. If you're caught twice, you take it away, take it up to the office, and the parent has to come get it. And it's a very fair, I don't care if they have a phone in their pocket and it's turned off, but they shouldn't be going to the bathroom 17 times a day in order to use their phone, or whatever. I just would like to see the telephone policy followed or changed. That's just the way I am.
So why don't we put that on the agenda for the 7th?
No, I just wanted to bring it up. I think Mrs. Desprez heard me. Or do you want to change the policy?
Well, if we have the policy, you say you want to see the policy, let's
No,
look
I
at
don't want
it.
to see the policy. I know what the policy is. I want the policy followed. That's what I want. I want to see, or if somebody is unhappy on the board that doesn't think the policy is fair to the students or to whomever, then they can certainly, talk to the board and say, I would like to change the policy. But I just, we have policies and they should be followed, and that's one of them. The other thing.
I think all the policies should be followed.
What?
I think all the policies should be
Well, I
followed.
do too. I really
Not
do.
one of them.
And I, that's why I'm kind of going easy here, and I'm hoping that the 2 new school board members, I have an advantage being on the policy committee member. So I see the policies a lot, and it's scary to see some of the policies that we really don't pay attention to or follow. Changing the
Can I ask for
subject.
some context here on
What?
this one? Can I ask for some context
On
on that? On
the telephone?
Do you think that the policy is not being followed?
I
And
do.
how
I think it's being followed by a few people and totally ignored by many others.
By teachers?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's other policies that are suffering the same fate. as
I'm
far
just
as I
picking
know.
on the phone policy tonight. I would like
Can I ask, sorry,
somebody to explain to 37 teachers that we have a policy and we expect the policy to be followed.
what is the procedure for policy following? I mean, this is,
Well, I mean, the policy, yeah, all of the policies are, you don't have an option whether you're following it or not. I mean, the policies need to be followed. If there's anything in the policies that a staff member or anybody else feels should be discussed further or considered for revision, then that should come to the building administration, back to us at the school board, and if the school board feels the same way, then it should go to the policy committee and have a
Correct,
discussion.
yes.
But as far as following policy, you don't have a choice. You follow the policies.
and one of those cases, what happens in the cases where there's it's not being followed for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, there's certainly policies that aren't being followed for a variety of reasons. You know, some of it's, people don't know about the policies. I'm sure that, you know, all of the parents and all the teachers and everybody don't know all of the policies.
course.
And quite frankly, I can't recite all the policies with the 3 districts. So I think it's important every once in a while for all of us to refresh our memories, go through the policies, look at the ones that are pertinent, and then it's important to follow them.
And if there's suspected violations, we should be telling you if, like,
Building administration. And then that's a conversation that, you know, every year at the beginning of the year with the in-service days, we do reminders to the staff about, you know, very important policies, and then reminding them that, you know, you need to go through the policies again and just, these are the highlights, these are the changes. And, you know, I don't think that anybody's being malicious about it. I think a lot of times it's either they forget about it or quite frankly don't know that there's a policy in place.
If there's an interpretation portion of a policy and it's being interpreted 2 different ways,
Yep.
that's something we can bring here to discuss? That's something that,
Yeah, I think we have policies that come up all the time that get interpreted 2 and 3 and 4 different ways. I mean, if it's becoming an issue where there's a gray area, much the same as contract negotiations, you know, you try to make them as clear as possible, but there's always some gray areas. So if there's something that needs to be clarified, we need to kick it back to the policy committee to review and see if there's a language change that we need to make, you know, and if we can add language to take care of an issue of a gray area in a policy, then we need to do that.
Some of the things that we're looking at too may be procedures and not necessarily policies from the policy manual. I mean, we do present the student handbook every year, and there are explanations in there, so it's understood that that's supported by the school board, and not, if you suggest changes, we make those, but some of the things may relate to procedural expectations and not necessarily policy-driven expectations, so we try to distinguish the difference amongst those with the faculty and staff and address both.
But to that, I would say the same thing. I mean, if we have a procedure manual or a student handbook, whether it's policy or not, if it's in the student handbook, if it's in the faculty handbook, those procedures need to be followed.
Oh, right.
If we find that it's too cumbersome, it doesn't address what we want, then we should have a committee discussion to change the student handbook, change the faculty handbook, or, like I said, a policy, bring it back to the policy committee.
Right, and that's not, I'm just saying, there's different governing bodies over both of those. So if there are procedural things, we certainly are going to be addressing those directly with the staff to look at why they're not following the procedures that we may have established, or look at changing the procedures if the procedures need to be changed, aside from policy
or if the
discussion.
procedure violates the policy.
Right.
Because the policy is the be-all and all of that.
Right.
In any group of people, I don't know, how many do we have? 80 here? 80
Close to 100
employees?
if you count everybody.
What?
Close to 100 if you count
Close to
everybody.
100. So you're always going to have, you know, the people who go along with the flow and the people who don't. My interest is specifically that the teachers, the paras, and the students are all working in the same direction, and I've picked the telephone policy to point that out, that they're not, in my opinion. Another day, I'll pick something else.
I don't think that's uncommon. I mean, I'll give you one example that I dealt with years ago in a building when I was principal. There was a procedure in the student handbook about no gum chewing in school. And some of the teachers followed it diligently, and then a couple teachers, well, that doesn't really bother me. I don't care if they do it in the classroom. And my conversation was, you don't have that option. If it's a procedure or a policy, then you need to follow that. If you don't agree with that, if I'm an educator and I say, well, you know, gum chewing stimulates the brain waves, which there's some research with that, and I'd like to allow it in my classroom, then at that point in time, that discussion needs to come forward, whether it's a policy or a handbook, have a discussion, and if you can support your argument and get it changed, then great, you can allow gum chewing. If not, then you can't allow gum chewing. But you can't just arbitrarily, you know, and there's a million of those, whether it's wearing a hat in school or eating food on the bus, you know, once the rules are set, then you need to follow them. If you don't like the rule, then go through the process of trying to get it changed.
And we can, I imagine the board can give exceptions to the rules from time to time, right?
Well, I mean, administration can do that too. I mean, if
Can they?
you've got a no hat policy in your building, and you have a child that has some an issue. Yeah, I mean, and you make an exception, that's the exception. I mean, that's not a problem.
So my last thing is, the contract was approved in Nottingham, so Nottingham is going to get, their school, kids are going to get 3% discount going into Co-Brown. For the two new board members, I brought this up at the last meeting, and the decision then was to wait and see if the contract passes. So Nottingham students will be going to Co-Brown in the 16-17 year at 3% less than Northwood students. We by far have more students than any other school in the state going to Co-Brown. I find it particularly irritating that they would do that. Some years ago, there was a difference between the Stratford made a better contract than we had, so we went to Co-Brown, and they matched the Stratford. I think this should be addressed. I think a letter should be sent out. I think it's completely unfair. It's about $106,000 or something like that. It's completely unfair that a school sending half as many students to Co-Brown is getting a 3% discount less than a school that's sending twice as many schools.
So does that come from the board? Is that, because I'm in
Yeah, I would
agreement
like
with
it
you.
to
I
come
mean,
from
it
the board.
can't hurt to at least send, so does that come from the board or does that come from the SAU?
Well, I think the board would instruct Dr. Godomsky to send a letter to Co-Brown that we would like the same deal as Nottingham.
I disagree.
Okay.
Because I feel, if you look at numbers with Co-Brown, we're like a Division school, 2 school in sports, right? And it's just not on sports about, it's definitely about academics as well. They're on the low side. So the more people you get here to come to Co-Brown, the more opportunity that you get more revenue in. We cut this deal because they want more students to draw them from Nottingham so they don't go to Dover. And after 3 years, it levels back out. Yeah, more revenue, more students in the school, more opportunities. One thing reason why I'm talking sports is because people have mentioned this to me, is that the track team numbers have gone down a lot because of lacrosse. And it's because we don't have enough big enough pool. So the more people we bring in, right, the numbers are getting bigger.
I agree with you but from a different point of view. I mean, the cost of sending a kid to school, when they set their tuition rates, it's the total cost of how much it is by how many students they have going there. If they have more students going there, that cost is going to be spread out amongst more students. So I would expect that with more Nottingham students going there, maybe our tuition won't go down, but maybe will increase less than it would if the Nottingham students weren't there, just because you're getting more scale, you're getting more, the cost for the school is being divided up amongst more people. So we could actually be making out, basically, the taxpayers in Northwood may be paying less for Co-Brown because there are more students there than we would if they weren't there.
And one more thing on that is, I don't disagree that we should still send a letter
Yeah,
for the reason
absolutely.
why they did that, and do they have a long-term projection? Maybe you have the answer for that. They already know, they already projected these numbers, and this is what they need, and, because if they don't, we're going to be hurting. I don't know if they already done a long-term study on that.
Well, knowing a little bit about the subject, all of the points that you brought up were certainly part of the discussion. I mean, yes, if you look at it one way, everything should be even and all of the tuition rates should be balanced. However, if tuition contract doesn't pass down in Nottingham and other options are explored and those kids come out, that's a rather substantial amount of money with a number of kids that don't go to Co-Brown anymore. So all of that was part of the conversation. I talked to Headmaster Smith after last meeting and just let him know of some of the conversation that was started. And he was very open to, if you wanted him to come in and have a discussion about that and kind of fill you in on the reasoning behind that, he was open for that too. That's up to you.
And I would personally like to have him come anytime he wants. It's no different than if I'm buying shoes. And if I'm buying 10 pair of shoes and I get a certain price, and I would find out that another place is buying 5 pair of shoes, but they're getting a better deal, that makes no sense. You know, if they want to keep Northwood, you would think that they would want to, if they have to make a deal with Nottingham, in theory, it doesn't add any more students. Now, I think it's going to, but Nottingham disagrees with that. It's only that the contract only made it by being approved so that instead of the parents paying the difference between Dover and Co-Brown, now the town is picking up the entire tab, which they've done for 2 years anyway.
Well, that's not exactly the case. That's
Well,
not the whole.
All right, well, you could tell us the whole thing if you want, but regardless of that, it makes no sense to me that a school that is sending twice as many students should get not as good a deal as a school who's sending half as many. If they need to keep all of us, then they need to treat us all fairly, is the way I would look at it.
And I have to agree with Tim. I actually really do agree with Tim on this. I think that the letter should be at least sent, saying.
I kind of agree that we could send something and ask. I mean, it never hurts to ask.
It never hurts to ask, and we've had this contract for how long with
Right.
Co-Brown, and as Tim said, it's $106,000 that could possibly be back in our budget,
Well, I want to know, in 5 years, is it going to benefit us? That's the letter I want, that's the information,
Absolutely.
So
I
if
think-
you're telling me it's going to cost us 106, I think it's like 7, what you
I
said
think
last
it's only
meeting.
2 years.
Doesn't even
Second
cost-
year,
it
they
doesn't-
get
2%.
2 years.
Two
It's
per-
3% the first year,
Two and then
2% the
one.
It doesn't
second.
cost us, it's just we're not getting the savings they're getting.
It's just like, yeah, but over the long run of 5 years, if they have a 5-year plan stating, hey, in the long run, you're actually going to be saving money.
Which is
Our
probably what's gonna
contract with
happen.
them is up in 2 years, right? Is that what I remember?
Oh, I'd have to
No.
check. I think it's longer than
Oh, no,
that.
2020,
4 years.
2020?
Yeah, I think it's longer than
2020,
that.
2020, sorry,
I
24
don't,
years.
I don't understand how we're gonna save money in 5 years. That just somehow just flies over my head.
By having a bigger student base to spread it out.
Well, they're not gonna have a bigger student base.
They
Bigger than-
could.
bigger than they would
possibly
have in
could.
5
It
years
doesn't mean
without
that they're
Nottingham
not.
students.
We'll see if it makes 10 students going. There's very specific reasons why some students go to Dover and some students go to Co-Brown out of Nottingham. Football being one of the big ones. There's very specific reasons, and those kids aren't going to change their minds, nor are the parents. I don't see it as a big deal. I just am going to continue to say, I can't believe that a business, and they're not quite a business, but they're certainly much more business-like than than a totally public school, that a business would never do something like that by
Yes, they would.
undercutting
They do it all the time.
their biggest customer in order to bring in a smaller customer. I can't see that
attract
happening.
It would, it just wouldn't be
Absolutely.
public the way that it
Yeah.
is right now.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be making contracts under the table,
Right.
absolutely.
It's just
This
you don't know
happens
about
every
it.
day.
It's just you don't know about it.
Company
'cause it's not
found out.
public. Yeah.
Which we have, I think the big company would take their business elsewhere.
Well, cell phone carriers do it all the time. I mean, they offer you an introductory rate that's lower than the regular rate.
Right, right.
And then bam, it's that Bill commercial. Bill got ugly.
So whatever the board would like to do.
So I agree with Tim. I think a letter should be sent.
Explanation, why
Well,
they did it.
And that could be asking part of it, but I also think,
Or should we hear their side first? I mean, I wouldn't have Dave come in here. Dave Smith would be, hey, he's always welcome.
We
to
can
come to our meeting,
absolutely
I think,
do that.
right? And then, based
we
on
could
what we
as
see
a board
there,
ask him. I mean, I guess
take action. Would that?
that's
would that-
okay too. I don't know how that works. Can we ask him personally if he's here?
Ask who what?
Dave
But
Smith.
I mean, I think that would be something that he would have to take to the Board of Trustees anyways. It's not something.
Who's
he
on
could
that
do.
Oh, no, I'm sure we do.
Yeah, but
Well, I've already spoken with Dave. He said he would be more than willing to come and have a discussion. Obviously, I don't anticipate that he would, make any deals on the spot.
No, and I think he can't.
I wouldn't think that would ever happen, but having a discussion and answering some questions both ways, I certainly could see that
Yeah,
happening.
so you guys want to do that?
I'm
Here.
good with that.
I don't care either way, so, all right,
Okay.
let's go forward with that.
Is that the general consensus?
That's the general consensus.
Hearing
Unless
that.
anyone object. Hearing no objection. board would like to ask you to invite Dave Smith to a meeting of ours.
I will do that.
Any other new business? Okay, moving on to old business. We have parking lot items, of which we're down to 4. So coming up, we have for the April timeframe listed review specific lines throughout the budget.
That was a discussion, I'll give you a little history on that one. That was a discussion at one of the board members of, I believe, a board member wanted the board to consider going back through the budget in a little bit more detail when we're not in a rush to put a budget together and just have a discussion about some lines that are in there in a little bit more detail. I think that, if I remember correctly, that's what the discussion was.
And I don't know if that was me or not, but anyway, so.
Sounds like you.
I really think way sooner than November that we should have several short discussions about the budget, what's in the budget. One of the items that I asked that we look into going into the next budgeting season, and Karen agreed, but then she decided not to be here, was the incredible amount of money we spent to belong to this group or that group. Starting with the New Hampshire School Board Association, which I wouldn't belong to that if I had the final say in a heartbeat. But we belong to so many associations and clubs and this and that. It's a big amount of money. I had Marjorie put it together for me one year, maybe 2 years ago. And those are things that I feel, unless we start to see a change in the amount of students we have, that we're really going to have to start pinching pennies as we go forward and to start look at. And I think we need to do that sooner than October, November. And just take a look at the budget. That was one of the things that I was going to bring up. I have a list started at our work session.
I don't disagree with you. I think having it on the parking lot right now, I mean, it's on the parking lot. The only place it's going to go is onto an agenda, right, from here. I don't know that our next meeting is the right place for it, in my opinion, just because I think we have a whole lot of other stuff
I'm not saying it is.
to do.
I'm just saying that's something that that's one of my ideas that we need to smooth out the whole budgeting process.
I'm okay with that. So I guess what I'm saying right now is I think we should just leave it in the parking lot and revisit it our next meeting. And we'll take these parking lot items every meeting and
Well,
make
and
sure we don't
isn't
forget
it,
about
I mean,
things.
can't we take like a certain section or something and say, review this before the next
We could.
board meeting, and then we could discuss it at the next board meeting too, so that we're not, reviewing them at that time, going through it, and then we can all just
We
bring
certainly
up-
could. I'd like to wait a few meetings to do that.
Yeah,
but-
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just instead of trying to review the whole budget in one meeting
Yeah.
and trying to fit everything else in.
The other things on our parking lot items is the volleyball discussion and the NSBA update, which are related. We have this summer to bring those up. Volleyball was Dave's baby, but I've always thought that it should be coming from administration and the athletic director. So I don't know, has you seen any push from there, any news about volleyball, or have you heard anything?
Nothing
Coming up
since
the
we
pike?
talked about it at the meeting that it wasn't gonna be something we were gonna put in the fall budget when we developed the budget.
Okay.
I mean, they've been focused on the sports that we currently have,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be conversations generated. I mean, I can certainly talk with Mike Brieger and see if he's been hearing anything about people looking to push for volleyball.
I had heard from one of the members of the Co-Brown Athletic Committee that they had a bunch of volleyball equipment that they were going to give to us. So I don't know what's happened with that. She was talking to Dave, so.
Take it and we'll sell it and buy some textbooks or a
There's
program.
not all our textbooks.
It just gets hard. I mean, with a school this size, when you start expanding sports, as much as it's exciting to have new sports, you minimize the amount of players that you have access to on teams. So, that is something that we would have to consider if we're looking at adding it as a sport instead of doing it instead of another sport. We have a hard time, some seasons, fielding the teams that we
Yeah.
currently have, just based on kids
We
doing
just-
other activities anyway.
Recently just added in the last couple of years, cross-country and lacrosse.
It's taken over too.
So,
yeah. Yep.
I mean, to throw in volleyball there as well, you would have to have a huge push.
So how about we leave this on the parking lot for now too? If you do get a chance to talk to Mike, and if he has any input, feedback, that'd be great.
Just a suggestion, you do have an athletic committee and an athletic director. I mean, I think that that would be a good topic of discussion at that committee to
Have you met Mike Breeder?
to look at all of your numbers and have the discussion that you're talking about now with watering down the number of participants you have. And then if it's a recommendation at that point, then it can come back to the school board.
And if not, I mean, if we get a definitive answer that no, it's not a recommendation, fine, we'll take it off the parking lot and move on. 'Cause,
Right.
I don't know what the NSBA update is. but
The
I mean, I
Hampshire
know
School
that's-
Board Association update, that most of those are, they come out with policy updates and things that,
Okay. We have a Northwood softball baseball association, which I'm sure is very similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same.
well, I wonder if that was,
That might be the update for
that
the
actually might, I
grounds.
may be confusing those.
Might be the drainage, I think it might be the drainage and the update on what they're doing.
Finishing maybe the dugouts,
fields.
maybe.
Yeah.
The Softball Baseball Association, I think that's why that's on there.
Is that the
to
update
look
on
at
there?
where
Okay,
that,
sorry,
where that
wrong
stands
update.
and what that's doing.
Yeah, that's all right.
I think that's what that is.
I think you're
So
right.
the drainage is done as far as we know. The dugouts are not done yet? Are they done?
I believe there's a backing, and there's a couple things that are not completed, I believe. It's been a while since
Chad still working on that?
I'm not too positive, I would have to double check. I'll check with Mike Brigger.
Okay.
Yeah, we
That sounds
can-
like
we
a
can
good
certainly invite
athletic
Mike in.
athletic committee,
Yeah.
yeah. Review supplies, total all areas. I assume those are supposed to be different. Probably review supplies, comma, total all areas, and budget development, but that's not till November.
I believe that kind of relates back to the one that you've got up the top of reviewing all of the lines specifically. I think there was a conversation about all of the supply lines and going back through the supply lines and not just carrying through a number, but really nailing down what is in there, so do we need it all? I think that was the discussion.
All right, so we'll continue
Isn't
that.
November a little late for budget development?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I was thinking, September.
well, see,
but-
budget development is in our timeline. See, we have two things, we have the parking lot and we have the timeline, right, the calendar. And if you look
Okay.
in the
It
calendar,
says timeframe November 2016.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That just, yeah, that's,
I think that,
So why don't I clean up the parking lot and I'll
Yeah.
put in there something to do with backing up the budget process and starting it earlier for these discussions.
yeah, maybe moving it to the calendar instead, like if
Okay.
budget development, yeah, should be in September, and I don't think it's on here.
one of the things I'd like to know from administration is what is a good date to give from the board to give you guys to say, the first draft of the budget, we would like it, 10% less than next year. It's not gonna happen, not really, but, when would be a good date for you guys? Because it's really, budget development is really, starts with you. So,
Well, I think that, I think that the discussions and the general philosophy of what the board wants to get done in the budget can start earlier in the year. I would hesitate to back up when we're asking building administration to get us the budget too much more than we have it already, because if we do, then we're asking the teachers basically to come in the first day of school and get your budget ready, and there needs to be a little bit of a lag time there for them to get things done. As far as any kind of philosophy on what you want to try to get done, whether it's, being tighter on the supply lines, looking at your equipment, doing extra in technology, not exceeding, bring the first blush back at 4%. Some boards like to see kind of a wish list budget. We want to see everything on the first draft. And when you do that, you're going to get like a 14, 15, 16% increase on the first round. Other boards want to say, look, don't even waste the time. Start at don't exceed 3% or 4% or whatever it is, or level line budget. But anytime we get a direction like that, then immediately we're going to be working sooner to scrutinize and pare things down to get to that point.
So the sooner the better, I'd imagine.
Well, the sooner the better.
So I just want to take a step back, because I realized I didn't really explain what's going on here. But for the new board members, we started this parking lot. It's something we started doing last year for ideas or discussions we wanted to have that weren't appropriate to have right now, and we didn't, or next week, but it's something we didn't want to forget. So whenever something like that comes up, the parking lot is where we put it. So it's in the parking lot, it's in there for later, so that we don't forget we want to talk about this, because things get busy with budgets and all that stuff. So that's what the parking lot's about. The next thing in your packet is the school board calendar, which is also something new we started doing this year, to try to list off, these are like our tasks that we have to do every year around this time. So, where are we? I don't know if you go look at March. We had school district voting, we had election of new board members, set board goals, etc. So again, this is like the parking lot, kind of a reminder of, hey, this is the kind of stuff we have to do, and we can look forward and say, hey, in April, we need to.
It's a plan.
Approve, yeah, it's a plan going forward. Both of these are new, they're editable, I mean, we can change any of them, so don't think that there's something that is set in concrete. And we can always, we've been, whenever we want to punt on something, we punt it to the parking lot, basically, right? And whenever it's like, hey, every March we should be doing this, that goes into the calendar. So if you guys have any ideas on that, feel free to jump in, or if things don't make sense. Just wanted to point out, they're new, they're,
Yep.
they probably need work.
No, it's great,
Not
because
perfect.
it kind of gives me an idea of what,
What we
month
do.
to month, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, so assuming we're done reviewing the parking lot items, I wouldn't mind just looking at the school calendar for this month, maybe next month, just real quick. So we kind of have some idea what we're going to be doing. Most of the March stuff, we've already talked about most of this, or done it. Appointed board subcommittees, long-range planning, and setting board goals. That's on our radar, so that's good. Non-CBA contract discussion. Bob, is that something we should be starting here?
Well, you're going to have, we're going to start those initially, well, let me back up. We've already started those. That's one of the discussions that we had in the non-public. And that discussion centered around, if you've got any individual feedback, certainly let me know, and I'll take that into consideration as I do evaluations and come forward. I've already started the conversations with building administration as far as the paraprofessional contracts, the teacher contracts, any non-renewals, any RIFs, any renominations for next year, and all of those will be coming forward the first meeting in April to get all of those taken care of. So that's kind of the time frame. It's going to be April, early April, and most of April is really on staffing, nominations, contracts, those types of things. And then as we know what teachers may, or anybody may or may not be coming back for a variety of reasons, then we're talking about obviously posting positions and then interviewing and hiring as quickly as possible.
Okay. Looking forward to April. As you said, a lot of this is renomination stuff. Things to keep in mind, maybe coming up, discussion of summer school proposals with board and approving spring fundraisers, I guess. So those are on our plate for April-ish. Okay, moving on to food service discussion. Would you like to give the background on this?
Give you a little history about, oh gosh, I think before I got here, 3 or 4 years ago, I think that there was a discussion about food service. There's an obligation, legal obligation for all school districts to fully fund a food service program. And if a food service program doesn't cover the expenses, which many don't, then it's an obligation of the district to offset that deficit. Like many food service programs, the Northwood food service program has been operating at a deficit, somewhere in the vicinity of probably between $15,000 and $30,000 annually. And then about a year to a year and a half ago, we explored again the outsourcing of the food service program. We had I think we had 3 different entities express interest. We had 2 different vendors come in and actually do presentations to the sitting board. Fresh Picks was the one that was highly thought of. And then after that, there was some concerns with the kitchen workers being in a contract and being unionized, and it was put on the back burner for a little while. Now, with the contract passed, the food service people are not in our union anymore. They're not covered by our collective bargaining agreement. So the discussion is about moving forward with food service program. The last board, the sitting board, thought that Fresh Picks was the way to go, and you know, I just want to know where you're at as a board. Do you want, are you comfortable moving forward with Fresh Picks? Do you want to leave it the same as it is now with the existing staff in-house? I would imagine that if you're going to move forward with the vendor, it would make sense to the figures that we have are a year old now, so it would make sense not for a full-blown search again in my mind, but at least to have them come in and run the numbers again and do a quick update for new board members, just to bring them up to speed as well. So I just put it on the agenda tonight for discussion and kind of a direction on what you want to do.
I would like to have them just come in and do another presentation, yeah, just to update their numbers and.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it would have to be a whole presentation. I mean, they've done a number of presentations, some of them before me, and all the previous board members were pretty adamant about this being the service they wanted to go with the price is right and that the food was
The ones at
good.
Dover, right, Tim?
No, they're from.
Barrington, I believe.
No, but they're in Dover, right?
Yes, oh, they're in Dover,
Yeah,
yes.
they're in the
they're in
Dover High
Dover,
School, so if you've ever
Barrington,
eaten at Dover High
they've
School.
got a number of schools
Kingston,
around.
I went to Kingston and I went to Dover.
Okay.
And tried both, and I thought they were excellent.
So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see the numbers and see what, you know, if we
Are they
did
out of Vermont?
start doing a
I
contract.
think so, because they do northern New Hampshire also.
Yeah, I think they're out of
they've,
Vermont.
White
The only
Mountains
concern I
and-
have, and I certainly want to look at it, I just want to see if the amount of students we have is less. Is that going to change the rosy picture that they gave us before?
Right, that's what I mean about running
Right,
the numbers and
yeah,
getting them
so
up to
I
date,
just,
because
you know.
obviously they're a year old now, so.
Yeah.
But if that's something that the board still wants to move forward with, then I will get in touch with them and
I think we have to look at it. It cost us $35,000 last year,
Yep, it did.
$35,000. And this company said they could come in with some pretty darn good food and break even. They would give us a contract, said they'd break
Please
even.
do, unless there's objection.
And one of the, part of the discussion, there were a lot of lengthy discussions by the school board, but part of the discussions were that in outsourcing, you know, working with the vendor that came in to hopefully provide positions for our existing staff members, if that's possible, certainly expressing that that was something that the board was very interested in making sure happened. And there was another, there's going to be another expense because the vendor doesn't handle the paperwork for the free and reduced lunches and things like that. So that's going to have to be a discussion with the board about what type of a position. Is it a part-time position? Where does that responsibility get picked up? So that's going to be part of the discussion as well.
Will you have that information for us at the same time as the?
Yeah, we can put something together as to, you know, how time-consuming that would be. And obviously, you've got some money in your existing budget because you've budgeted for your food service program for next year. So, you know, we'll have to look at the existing budget and then what they bring in as a cost analysis, so. But I'll call them and have them start moving forward.
Thank you.
Will they need to come in and do another evaluation of the kitchen the way that they did before? Because I believe one of the things that they had costed out was something that we already replaced.
I think they could do that pretty quickly. I mean, they did a pretty inclusive presentation financially at the
Right.
last meeting, and it's a year old, so they'll have to look at our numbers and things like that, but, I mean, the equipment it's the same as what they looked at last year, so.
They could bring food. Dave and I put on 10 pounds.
Yes, you did.
I'll suggest that.
Unnecessary. Of food.
That's what I missed.
All right. Any other old business? All right. Moving on, set of future agenda items. I think we're pretty full with that, Bob, right? You all
Yeah,
set for doing that?
we've got a pretty full plate.
Okay.
Jim, can I just double check to make sure, is it on the April 7th meeting that you guys would like to have that reading program presentation at the next meeting?
Yes, I'm going to put that on the agenda.
Okay, just wanted to verify that.
Yes.
So future meetings, we have a joint board meeting at the SAU office on March 28th.
Can I just jump in on that one?
Yeah,
That's a
sure.
real important meeting because it's the
It's the
reorg
reorg
meeting of the joint board, so I'm encouraging all of my boards, if you can attend, that would be greatly appreciated.
So that is, what, a week from Monday.
Monday, right?
It's a Monday night. It's 6:15, weird start time, so. March 31st, we scheduled a goal-setting work session for us. We'll be here at 6:30. April 7th is our regular board meeting, the week after, 6:30, and then April 21st after that. I don't know that we have anything else scheduled in between. I'd just like to say, if for some reason you can't make any of these meetings, please let me know, because if we don't have a quorum, for us it's 3 people, then there's no point in us having a meeting. So check your calendars and let me know. I'll let you know right now. I am not going to be here for the April 7th meeting, so you can run the meeting.
Can I ask one more question about agendas?
Yes.
You had mentioned wanting more information at the previous meeting about the RTI program.
Yes.
And we were planning to develop a presentation for you all for a board meeting regarding RTI.
Okay.
With the reading program on the April 7th meeting at this point, is RTI something that you want in addition on April 7th? Or would we push that RTI presentation out to a future meeting?
I would put that, a suggestion, I would put that in probably the first May meeting, because,
Exactly.
because we really need to spend some time on staffing and things in April, so it's going to be pretty tight.
Thank you.
Along the lines of emailing us or giving us a quick call for your meetings, joint board meetings too, we've had a bit of difficulty over the last year or so with getting quorums and people calling in, and it's very difficult to get anything done if we don't know. So as soon as you know, if you have a conflict, if you can just shoot me an email so we know how many people we have for those joint board meetings, it would be helpful.
Yeah, and along with that,
Contact sheet for the whole.
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if you could at least stop by and give me your text phone number or email address, however you prefer to be contacted, so that
And
I
you
can.
can email it out to everyone, because I don't have emails
Nancy
for
does that.
the principal or
it's
the
on-
superintendent or
It
anyone.
is online, I think. but
Yeah, it would
we'll
just be
get
nice
up
to have it all
Yep.
in one.
I totally agree. So, yeah, for anybody who,
Yeah, CU usually does that every year.
3 o'clock in the morning emails and text
that's
messages.
right. Yeah, I'll start calling. Why aren't you at the meeting? Okay, closing public comment. Oh, we have to go back to this minutes thing, don't we?
You gotta turn the mic on again.
Oh, yeah.
Battery was dead.
Oh, gee.
You good?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind, I know at our Budget Committee meeting last night, Barbie had sent over a text and whatever, but the Budget Committee does have its quarterly meeting on April 19th, and I forget who's the new budget rep? Bree. Okay. For Bob, if you could let whomever needs to know that the financial statement as of April 31st, excuse me, not April, March 31st, needs to be in the mail by the 8th of April to allow enough time for committee members to be reviewing it before the meeting, as is our norm.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, we're good. I believe we do have need for a non-public?
I've got
session?
one quick one. Yes.
Oh, okay. So,
Motion to go into non-public for,
second,
I don't know what we're using.
C.
C.
RSA 91A2C.
Shane.
For breakfast
All right,
tomorrow.
we have to do a roll call vote for that,
Roll
Tim?
call in and out.
Yes?
Yes.
Agree?
Yes.
Yes. And yes. We're all set with Gary